Yo, yo, yo. Welcome. Soccer Over There is live November 16th. We got a U.S. men's national team game to talk about. We got other games to talk about. South America World Cup qualifiers tomorrow. We've got league play coming back, and now it feels like players are either going to be missing due to hamstrings or positive COVID tests, and there's a lot of them. We'll get into all of that tonight as we go. Jarrett Smith will be joining us at some point this evening. He'll just appear whenever we start talking about Scotland. Nick Alifi is busy this evening. He will not be joining us, so direct all of your Italian questions to @NickAlifi on Twitter or Sock Over There. He was very proud of Weston McKennie for doing the classic Italian hand motions during the match today. Playing at Juventus is rubbing off on our young Weston. Let's get into the U.S. match. What'd you think?
I'm first and foremost, I'm going to temper my comments by saying that it was Panama.
First and foremost, I am going to crack open this Bravazzi. That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, you go ahead and do that.
Yeah, how about that?
Yeah, there you go. And I've got my Diet Dr. Pepper since we've had the one glass. I know. Mr. Living Dangerously. That's me. Woo-hoo.
No, that's just when you turn on the inside of the stove, John.
Yeah, did that about an hour and 5 minutes ago, actually.
Wow, 3 times in a row.
I know. Well, it was 2 of the inside part and 1 of the surface unit, so I don't know if that's this considered to be the same thing. But, so Diet Dr. Pepper is here with me, and I will navigate through the show in that manner. Damn it. Once that 1 cup of Mountain Dew is done for the day during the morning show, I'm kind of on my own here. So, like I said, I'm just going to temper my results, all of my thoughts by saying, first and foremost, it was Panama, and it was a rotated Panama side. Although from my USL Championship perspective, it was nice to see Juan Tejada, who is known internationally, I guess now as Juan David Tejada from the Tampa Bay Rowdies. It was good to see him representing his national club. And I know that everyone who was watching this match saw the Fajardo header out of the blocks and was trying to either A, go ahead and freak out in all capital letters, or debating whether or not they should freak out in capital letters. And then Gio Reyna scores on a tremendous free kick. Giacchini scores. And then it's 3-1. Then it ends up 3-1 in the second half as well, although once again Fajardo scored again to make it 3-2. So 3-1, 3-2, and then 3 goals in 10 minutes at the end to make it 6-2. So I'm glad they scored goals, but I'm going to temper all of my grades as we go throughout the show here. It was Panama.
What did you describe Gio Reyna's free kick as?
What was the adjective that I used? I thought it was kind of cool.
That was kind of cool. I mean, it was okay. Like, I think the goalkeeper has.
I know that the keeper was leaning the wrong way, and Gio Reyna
that's kind of a big factor.
Around the wall, and
it's a little important. It's Panama. First off, I mean, it's Panama, and it's not a particularly strong Panama. I don't know. You don't want to throw cold water on it because it's better than it has been at times. You have a lot of exciting young talent coming through. It's not number 1 in the world, as some people would maybe try to lead you to believe at the moment.
Right.
The striker position, and I know Tafka was very excited, it's not solved because Sebastian Soto and Nicholas Giacchini scored against Panama. And yes, for those of you who really despise Jossie Zardes for no good reason, he's still in the mix. So is Josie Altidore, by the way, which I know that's going to really rile some people up. Look, it's Panama. I mean, you didn't dominate. You looked bad in the second half until you got a couple goals, and then Panama fell apart. You looked bad. You looked bad to start the match. Matt Miazga is still a giant question mark. Yep. Gigantic. He hurt himself more than anybody during these 2 games. Who stood out to me today? It's the midfield. It's Tyler Adams. It's Weston McKennie. It's Yunus Musa. That was the group that I thought was the best unit in the first match. They were the best unit here in the second match. That's the bulk of this team going forward. I do have a question when they play a team that will have more of the possession and will make that group defend. Will they be able to look as good in that kind of a match? I don't know the answer to that. We'll have to wait and see. We'll go through the goals real quick. So pull them up. The order of the goals today for the U.S. You gave up a bad goal that a lot of people have put on Reggie Cannon. I think you have to put most of it on Matt Miazga. I'm putting the majority of that goal on Miazga. You let a cross in, I guess, if you want to really have a go at Cannon. Putting more of it on Miazga. Then you get a goal off a free kick. It's on the edge of the 18. I think the goalkeeper misplayed it. I think Gio slotted it home nicely. And you get the 1-1. Second goal from Giacchini is a rebound. Not a great rebound. It was nice from Ulianes, who I thought had a good match. A little unfortunate for him. He doesn't get on the score sheet for his work today. Giacchini picks up the rebound. The third goal, I thought, was a beautiful ball from Tyler Adams into McKennie. Kind of that reverse pass against the grain. McKennie probably kept it in, although that's not 100% sure. Miazga with a nice header back across to keep it alive, and Giacchini, puts it home from 4 yards out. So Giacchini's goals were both meh. He scored them. That's a good thing. That's a step in the right direction.
Yes.
Then you get into the second half, and you start to see the changes. You saw a horrendous tackle from Weston McKennie that would have been a red card in a competitive match. Giacchini picked up a yellow. You started to see in and out, swaps, stuff there. Then you get the goal for Fajardo, his second. They make it 3-2, and it's like, what is going on here? Then Richie Ledesma and Sebastian Soto take over. 2 good goals that they connected on. The first one was the best one of the night. Sebastian Lletget with a good near-post header from a Reggie Cannon cross. That was the goal in between the two. So, for the bulk of the match, you were slightly the better team? Is that harsh? Yeah. For the bulk of the match, you were slightly the better team. You didn't dominate like the scoreline indicated. You got 3 goals in the final 7+ with stoppage time, so that tilts it a bit. You let Panama control a good portion of the second half. I'm with the Fox guys afterwards, where they talked about how they had a rating at halftime and they actually brought it back because of the second half performance. Even though, yes, you scored 3. Winterwind says don't sleep on that ball. Dest played to feed Adams on that one either. It's good. Yeah, I think Adams made more of it and elevated it. But yes, Dest was good today as well. It's a game where it played to the strengths of the group you had, which is what you should be doing when you put together a lineup, because you were going to have a lot of the ball. You were going to control the play, or at least you should have controlled more of the play. And this was a team that could do that. The questions for me come into when you play a Mexico, when you play a team in a competitive match that matters. Gold Cup, you're going to be the favorite against everybody but Mexico. Costa Rica will give you a game. Honduras will give you a game. Maybe Panama next summer can give you a game. You should be favored against everybody but Mexico. Canada should have given you a better game in the second leg of the Nations League. They didn't. I still think Canada's a little bit of a one to watch.
Yeah.
All right, so then that's Gold Cup. Qualifying your road games, you're going to be in some different situations, and we want to see how this group performs. I don't know if we really got any big answers out of that. And then when you get into a World Cup situation, which is that next bar, is this a group that can compete with the best teams in the world? I think it's a very front-running group right now. It's a young group that's not very strong defensively, and if they have a lot of the ball, they have players who can make something happen with it. Dest, great on the ball. Cannon, good on the ball. Cannon's maybe still got a little ways to go. I think that midfield trio, good. I just wonder how they'll be if they're under a lot of defensive pressure.
Yep.
You still got to get Yunus Musa in full time. You got to get that deal done, make that happen. You've got questions up top. I've said it since the U20 World Cup. I'm still going to say it, and it didn't change because he got 2 goals today. Sebastian Soto is the one who I think has the biggest upside. I think Sebastian Soto should be the number 9 when he starts playing at a regular first division level and scoring goals. He's got the inside track, in my opinion. I think he's got more upside than Sargent. I think he's got more upside than Giacchini. I think he's got more upside, and of course you're comparing him to a veteran in Altidore and Zardes. I think he's got more upside there. Soto is the one that I'm looking at to be that guy down the road. When we get to that turn in the road, I don't know. We'll have to find out. The wingers, I think it'll be Gio and I think it'll be Pulisic. I mean, when I look at this lineup going forward, if I had to play a competitive match tomorrow, a World Cup qualifier, game 1, it's tomorrow. I think my lineup would be, I think you have to go with Stefan in goal because he's been the one who's been playing it. I think there are others who should be competing with it, but it's Stefan, so I think it's got to be Stefan. I would play Dest on the left because I think you have a bigger gap there. It'd be Brooks and it would be Walker Zimmerman for me. And I know that one's probably a bit of a surprise, but I think Zimmerman and Brooks would be a good pairing. Right back would be Cannon right now, a little bit by default, but it's his spot to lose. My midfield, it's assuming you get Musa to sign on the dotted line with whatever you got to do, he would be the guy in there with Adams sitting and with McKennie as the more attack-minded of the 3. It'd be Gio Reyna on the right side, it'd be Pulisic on the left, and it'd be Gyasi Zardes up top. Right now, in a must-win game, that's what I'm fielding. And Soto's on the bench for me. Ledesma would be on the bench for me, even though he's not playing regularly at the first division level, because I think he has a creativity you don't have a lot of in this team. Those would be 2 of my attacking options off the bench. You need a defensive 6. I think Johnny can be that. So he would be in my group. You'd need some outside back cover, and you can go through all the list of names and pick out who you want. I mean, Anthony Robinson's going to get more opportunities. He's got to do more with them. But I think the biggest thing we learned in these 2 games is that Yunus Musa is somebody you want with this group going forward. The Adams, McKennie, and somebody pairing in the midfield can work. We'll have to see it when it's tested defensively, but it can work. Gio Reyna was good. He still has room to grow. He's a kid. Gio Reyna was very good. Serginho Dest was very good. John Brooks was very good. Those are the ones that really stood out to me. That's what I took out of these 2 games. Is everything solved? No. Everything is on a good path. Now we got to see what Greg Berhalter can figure out with the domestic group, who he likes out of guys like Jordan Morris, who are going to be competing for time, out of guys like Zimmerman, Miles Robinson, Aaron Long, who that second center back spot is wide open in my opinion. I think the outside back spots are open too. Outside, I think Dest will be one of them, but he can play on either side. Potentially a 6 is open, although I don't know if there is one right now in MLS that would jump up into that spot. And the number 9 is open, even with Soto's performance, even with Giacchini's performance. That doesn't solve it. Gyasi Zardes is still going to be in that mix. Josie Altidore, if he could ever stay healthy for more than a couple months at a time, would still get into that mix. Maybe Jordan Morris fits into that mix as a number 9. I don't know. So now we see what we get out of the MLS crew, and then you start to plan for 21. All right, who slots in definitely with the U23s to get you into the Olympics? Who is going to stay with the U20s out of some of these young guys that we've seen over these last couple of days? And who's going to be with the senior team when you get into a Gold Cup where you won't have all of these guys? Because your guys who have played deep into their seasons, they're going to need time off after this kind of season. And you're going to have to make some hard decisions about your Gold Cup because you're going to need guys, although clubs can't turn it down once you get into World Cup qualifying next fall, you want good relationships. You want to be in a good position with all of the clubs that these guys are at. If that means massaging Frank Lampard's ego a little bit and saying, look, Christian Pulisic, we know he's got some hamstring issues. We know he's had some issues staying healthy. We're going to leave him out of the Olympics. We're going to leave him out of the Gold Cup. He's going to take the summer off. He's going to recover. But we need your full cooperation in making sure that he is available as much as possible for World Cup qualifying. If we can get a little bit of help in managing his minutes at times in that would be great. If you need to build those relationships, that's what you do with the Gold Cup. It's not ideal, but it will allow you to further your depth a little bit, and it will build those relationships. You got to be primed for September when World Cup qualifying starts, because you cannot start the way you did last time. You didn't qualify for Russia because you started 0-2.
Yep.
Period. Full stop. You can't do that again. It's a little bit different format, but you cannot get into that kind of situation. You have to start better. Everything is to gear towards September 2021.
Tofka's in early and says, I think we might be okay at striker, guys. Soto was Joseph.
Just referenced that, John.
Okay.
do I get muted sometimes?
No.
I said Tofka said we thought we'd be okay at striker, and I said I don't think that's answered yet.
Fine, I'll go ahead to the pictures of dinner that people are taunting me with.
I mean, I don't think we're answered at the number 9 yet. Just because 2 kids scored goals today doesn't mean they're going to start every game.
No.
Giacchini scored on a header from 4 yards and a rebound. Soto's goals were good. Soto, you still got to convince to not play for Chile. Like, Josie Zardes isn't going away. Mm-hmm. And Abby, I disagree. Josie Altidore is not going away. He's got to stay healthy for a period of time, but if he does and he's productive, he'll play. Yep. Josh Sargent is going to play. I think if Tofka is saying in that we've got options, I totally agree. That's a good place to be. But I don't think anything is resolved yet.
Yeah.
So big ifs, Abby, I know. Big ifs on Josie staying healthy. I think that's the biggest if of that at this point. He's not the default number 9 for me anymore. He was for a long time. If he was healthy, he got the spot. Now, I got to see more.
Yeah.
Zardes has shown you everything you need to see.
Mm-hmm.
Josie Zardes has shown you everything you need to see. The Josie Zardes slander needs to stop.
Yep.
It's out of hand. Abby asked about Brendan Aronson. That's going to be tricky. I'll tell you why. Because I think we saw a little bit, and I want to get some people's opinions on this. I think we saw a little bit of a foundation for how Greg Berhalter might want to have this team look. And that is, in a 4-3-3, really a 6 and 2 8s. Not a 6 and 8 and a 10 or 2 6s and a 10. More of a 6 and 2 box-to-box players. Now, McKinney can get forward and contribute in the attacking phase. Not really a true number 10. Aronson can do that, but I think he is closer to a 10 than an 8. So would he get pushed out wide? If he does, he's not going to beat Gio Reyna. He's not going to beat Christian Pulisic out if they're healthy. Or would Greg Berhalter, and I hope he would, if Brendan Aronson's form deserves the call-up and deserves the playing time, would he say, all right, this means we need to play and we need to adjust to accommodate a player who is in form right now and play. It's not, Abby, it's not that Berhalter said that. It's what we saw from the midfield in these 2 games. He didn't play a 10. And I think the only way going forward you play, because he was very fond of how his midfield played. He played the same group twice. So I think you get a good hint there. The only way to fit Christian Pulisic and Gio Reyna into that team with that midfield is to put them wide. And then you have a number 9 up top. But Aronson doesn't necessarily fit into that group as well. False 9, forget it. That was a dumb idea to begin with. Yeah. You've got number 9s. That just made no sense to me. I don't know. J-Dub says, if people ever liked Josie Zardes, or did he make his first cap to a cascade of boos? I don't know what turned it against Josie Zardes. I mean, there were a couple of the video compilations of, Josie Zardes has a bad first touch. he's found a way to score a bunch of goals with his first touch. I'm just saying.
Yeah, as long as he's not played it right back.
Let that go. That was like 4 years ago, John. That was like Siggy Schmid when he was flailing in 2017 with the LA Galaxy. And Jossie wasn't scoring goals either. So, I mean, Jossie wasn't deserving to play as the number 9, but that was a dumb idea 4 years ago. It didn't last very long. Most people have forgotten it, hopefully. Burns says, a lot of these guys are still youth players in my eyes. Yanez, Ledesma, Soto, Giacchini, and not fully developed pros. They would get eaten alive against Mexico, South America, or European teams. They'll probably play Olympics, but they have to make big jumps for the World Cup in 22. That is 2 years away. I wouldn't say big jumps. And they're on different tracks. I mean, Giacchini's playing in the second division in France. Ledesma's played one game in the Eredivisie. Soto's played a handful in the Eredivisie. Yanez, very little. I mean, yeah, there's room, but think about how many times we've seen guys with just a little bit of run-up. I mean, this is 2 years out. We're really about 2 years from the World Cup. Maybe 2 years and a week or so. A lot can change in that period of time. So I'll disagree and say big jumps, but yes, the mentality, and I think it showed in the second half, is not a pro grown man mentality yet. They backed off. They got comfortable. They got content, and they let Panama hang around. And you can't do that. Mexico would kill you if you do that. They have to experience it, I think, to get there. That's why the Gold Cup will be helpful for some of them. But no, they're not there yet. And I think there is a tendency in the USMNT Twitter sphere and fan base to overreact both ways. Overreact to a bad performance as that player should be banned for life, hence Jossie's artist.
Right.
And overreact to a good performance or even just a good statistical performance, and that player should be capped for life and they should never be out of the lineup. And that's neither one is realistic. There is an issue with that. So I take a lot of the reactions with a grain of salt. I was actually happy with Fox. I thought they kind of nailed it with, look, it was good, but slow down a little bit.
Yep.
So there's still some things to resolve. Go ahead.
No, it's just Greg Berhalter said that he wanted a physical test. He wanted one of these kind of CONCACAF matchups for this group of guys. And I guess if you look at the match in quarters, that third quarter, the first 20 minutes of the second half, it was scrambled. It was, there were connections that were missed all over the place. And Panama was getting comfortable, and they were asserting themselves in that third quarter. And eventually it ends up with Fajardo's second to make it 3-2. And I know that's 33 minutes down the line. But that third quarter of the match, I know that that part kind of concerned me a little bit, where they let Panama back in, as to what you were talking about.
Yeah, they just slacked off. And that's not going to work. That's not going to work against top opponents. It's just funny seeing people's reactions. Like now, I mean, I guess you still have a core who is like, Berhalter should be fired. I don't care. He loses a game, fire him. It's like, whoa, what?
Yeah.
And then you get the other side, like, everything is great. They're going to beat everybody. They're the World Cup favorites. And it's like, no, stop.
But to me, this has always been a fan base that's dealt in the extreme.
Well, then it needs to stop. Like, it doesn't make it okay. Well, this is a group that's always been dumb, so we'll just let them be dumb. No, we're going to try to explain it. We're going to try to make it clear. Ratings from today. Let's get into it. Mike Watala has already posted his from Soccer America. We talked about him in the last game. Let's see where he went this time. Stefan with a 5. He got beat on 2 goals, kind of close range. Yeah, 5's about right. Defenders, he went with a 7 for Cannon. He went with a 4 for Miazga, a 5 for Ream, and a 6 for Dest.
Okay.
I would maybe go a 7 for Dest. But the rest are fine. I don't have a problem with it. Midfield, Adams with a 6, McKinney with an 8, Musa with a 7. I would definitely go with a 7 for Tyler Adams.
Yeah.
I would bump him up. Front 3, Gio with a 7, Giacchini with a 7, Uli Yanez with a 5. I'd bump Yanez up to a 6. Substitutes, Johnny gave a 3. I think that's a little harsh. Weah with a 5. Fine. Ledesma with a 6. I'd go 7. Leggett with a 6. I'd probably go 7. Soto with a 7, and I'd go 8. I'd bump those up. It is a sub appearance, so I mean, if you're grading on a lower number scale because it's a sub appearance, you're not playing as much. That's fine. I will give them a little bit higher rating. Richards nothing because he barely played.
Okay, so here's Joe Prince Wright by comparison.
Okay.
Stephen a 7.
A 7?
Yeah.
He gave up 2 goals that were close range.
I know.
How's that? What do you get a 7 for?
Wasn't busy from a shot-stopping perspective because he didn't stop 2 of them.
Well,
but commanded his area well, came for crosses, and distribution was very good.
Distribution was fine. He had one really nice rollout that I thought he did very quickly and sprung an attack. I like that. I mean, if you want to go in the middle and go 6, that's fine. But 7 is no. You can't get 7 if you're a goalkeeper and you give up 2 goals. You can't.
Yeah. All right, so he gives Cannon an 8.
Okay, a little high. That's fine.
Promising run forward, pinpoint cross to pick up. Yanez,
we're good on Cannon. We're good on Cannon. That's fine. Miazga.
Right. 5.
Yeah, that's one more than Watala gave him. I lean to the 4, but that's fine. Reem?
6.
Yeah, one more again than what Watala gave. I think Reem was fine in this one. I don't really fault him on the goals, and he's the better one on the ball, so he did that part well. I mean, Reem was fine. Dest?
8.
I would have went 7. Watala went 6. Joe Prince Wright went 8. I think 8's a little high, but all of Joe Prince Wright's have been higher than I would go, so okay. I think I see how it's going to go. Tyler Adams?
7.
I said 7. McKinney?
7.
That's one that's lower. Musa?
8.
Okay, he flipped it. I think McKinney was better than Musa. If you want to knock McKinney for that tackle that he could have been red carded on, that's fine.
Yeah.
If you want to justify the 7 that way. Okay.
Yeah.
Reyna?
6.
Okay, that's another one where you went lower. Interesting. Giacchini?
7.
Yep, same. Yanez?
6.
Yeah, I would have went 6. Did he give the subs? Johnny?
Yes. 6.
Wow, that's the one that's the big difference. 6 and 3. That's the biggest difference. I think a 3 is really harsh.
Yeah.
A 6 is too high. I'd probably stick 4 because he had a couple of bad defensive mistakes. Maybe squeeze it to a 5. I'd probably go 4. Weah?
Yeah. 6.
It's a 5 here. Ledesma?
7.
I would have went 7. Leggett?
7.
I would have went 7. Soto?
7.
I would have went 8. Okay. So it's about the same. The biggest one is Johnny. He gave the defensive side of things higher ratings typically than Watala did. Okay, that's fine. No big shocks there. I like Johnny. Maybe I'm a little biased there. I think Johnny's a guy that really could play his way into this next group for sure. Okay. Winterwind asks, how far do you think Bello might be from being in the mix? That would move Dest back to the right side. So Bello would have to beat out the guys we talked about this morning, Chase Gasper and Sam Vines, domestically. And I think he can. I think he's right there with them. He's younger, so he's got more room to grow. I think Bello will be better than both of those players. He also, in a way, has to beat out Reggie Cannon because Dest can play on either side. So he's got to be better than Cannon, and that's a little bit tougher. So I don't think he's there yet. But the way he improved this year, and look, again, I've seen people who say that George Bello is not a good player and should not be starting. I see that out there, and it blows my mind. I wonder sometimes if I'm too high on him.
Yeah.
I thought he showed a lot this year, and he got better throughout the year. I thought his tackling, his defensive work got better, and I thought he was impacting games going forward at the end of the season, which he wasn't doing enough of in the middle. So if he continues to improve at this kind of rate, and he's still very young, so he can, then by 22, he could be in that mix. I don't think he is next year. I think next year he plays in the U20s, and he could potentially play in the Olympics. Now, some of that's going to be down to, does Atlanta United let him play in both, which would be a lot of games he would miss. You'd have to make sure you have cover. I do think they would let him play in at least one of them, either the U20s or the Olympics. I don't know if they would do both. And that goes into where Berhalter's got to manage this kind of stuff, because the U20s and the Olympics are both age-restricted, with the exception of 3 overage players for the Olympics. But they're also not mandated releases from clubs. So if you want some of these guys, you've got to manage things right with the clubs. And that would be exactly what I would tell them, is, look, we want George Bello to have this kind of experience. This would be good for him and be good for our club. But we're not going to lose him for a month in May, maybe early June, and then again in July, August for the Olympics.
Yeah.
No, we're not losing him for 2 months of the season. You pick which one you want him for, and then we're good. But we're not doing both.
Right.
And you got to figure that out, honestly, starting now. That's why I think these December and January camps could be really, really important. I would like to see the December camp be a general camp, and if you can get a game with a Nicaragua, Guatemala, somebody, somewhat close by, that'll help. I would like to see the January camp be a U23 camp. Be a camp preparing for the Olympics. It needs to be that kind of camp, because you'll be going into qualifying right after that, and it needs to be that so you can get the most out of that group and you start to identify who that group is. And if that means you're going to have some of your U20s go up to that, then you need to be ready to have some younger players step into the U20s, because you can't ask people to do both. I just don't think the clubs are going to be okay with it, not after the crowded year they've had.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. Pick one, and can't wait to see which one it is, because I like you, thought that Bello improved as the season went along, and I'm enjoying to see his progression, and I mean that from years back going forward. So I want to see the next step, but for someone who has proved as integral on the left as he has for Atlanta United, to lose him for a month, to have him come back, lose him for another month, pick one. And that's great, fantastic. Great to have him on the international stage, but not for both of them.
D. Graham asking about the second half letdown. How much of that is Berhalter? He never had that killer mentality in Columbus. The coach shouldn't have to transmit that. It should be the players, especially a group playing for your national team. If he has to pump them up, then they're not ready for this level. So I'm not going to blame him for that. And there wasn't anything tactically that I thought got different in the second half that he should have reacted to. If his players can't be up for 90 minutes of the international game, then he needs to pick different players.
Yeah.
And these were very talented players. They should be able to handle that. And I think what he was saying about a physical challenge and a CONCACAF kind of match, that was why he threw them into it. And that was why he took them, or he played them in the second half to start. Stu Holden and some others, I believe Stu did. I might be wrong. I might be putting that to Stu, and it's not him. There were talk about why didn't they make any subs at halftime. There's a bunch of players you haven't played, et cetera, et cetera. And look, we saw why, because you needed to see how they'd respond to getting punched in the mouth a few times, and they did. And they didn't really respond well. It took them a while. That's not going to work against better competition. So that's on them. It's not on Berhalter to me, D. Graham. I think at times it's really easy for people on the outside to blame the coach when it's not the coach's fault. I mean, I think we kind of saw that here with Frank de Boer at times. We definitely saw it with Stephen Glass at times. We saw it with Tata at times too, although those things get buried after you win a championship. Like, the coach gets a lot of blame and not enough of the credit typically. This was mentality. This is players to me. This is what's got to be better. Abby said, talking about the whole game, Alexi Lawless said it was a 7 at halftime, then he dropped it to a 6.5. Abby thought that was too high. 6.5 is right. I mean, you scored 6 goals, you won 6-2. It's kind of hard to go less than that.
Yeah.
I think 6.5 is about as low as you can realistically go in a 6-2 win. even against the level of competition it was. That feels about right. Burned, talking about Pulisic and Reyna, he thinks they play better with a traditional number 9 who can hold up play a little bit. They don't mesh with these run-in behind guys. So for Pulisic, better with Giroud as opposed to Timo Werner, that kind of thing. U.S. doesn't really have a striker like that right now, or at least I can think of one. I mean, Gyasi Zardes isn't too far off of a traditional number 9. I would like to see that group work because I think Zardes, especially since he went to Columbus and worked with Berhalter there, he knows exactly what Greg wants of his number 9s. He knows the movements. He knows the patterns. He knows where he needs to be to get on the end of things. And if you have Reyna and Pulisic as 2 guys who can create for you, along with your outside backs, along with Weston McKennie, you're going to put yourself in positions to score, but you're also going to take defenders with you and create spaces for them. Zardes, for me, would be the best option right now because of that familiarity, and he's probably the closest thing you have to a traditional number 9. Josie is maybe more of that. It's just he can't stay healthy for an extended period of time, so you just can't count on him. Right. That can change, but I think Gyasi Zardes deserves a look with this group to see if it all fits even better, because I think it could. Yeah,
no, and you make the point that was sticking in my head about the familiarity with Berhalter and Columbus, where Gyasi Zardes is concerned. I don't know where the anti-Gyasi Zardes contingent is still gathering their energy from, or if it's just a carryover from years past. And if Gyasi is X, therefore I must feel Y. The equation hasn't changed over time, regardless of the results. And I want to see how he integrates with the group that we've seen here in these last 2 matches. And I'm excited to see what the results can be when he integrates.
Abby, talking about Bello, said maybe what Bello wants, don't you think? Not if he wants to play in both tournaments, it won't be. Because you can't let him go for both. That's 2 months of a 9-month season. I mean, that could literally be half the season in terms of games. To go to camp, prepare, and then go play in these tournaments. If you make a run in either one, I mean, it could be half the season. And the club doesn't have to let him go. So, I mean, you don't want to create a war with one of your players, but I think it's going to be made pretty clear. Like, look, we need you here. We're going to let you do one of them because some clubs will say no to all of it. We don't let you go to a youth tournament. Barcelona didn't want to let Lionel Messi go to the 2008 Olympics. And Pep Guardiola realized that it was a smart move on his part to build a relationship with Messi when he came in that summer to say, go win the thing. You're going to be able to go. I'm going to make sure of it. I just ask that when you come back, you give me everything you've got. So prepare what you got to do this summer to be able to handle it. But, yes, I'm going to let you go. Yeah. You got to balance that. I mean, because the national team doesn't pay Bello's salary. Atlanta does. So it's not all what Bello wants. He can't play them both. I just don't see that happening because it's such a big gap. Yep. It's such a big period of time. I mean, and no, I don't think it'd be Bello's choice, Abby, in terms of which tournament to play in, because he might not. You just don't know how that's going to go. It's going to be Greg Berhalter's choice ultimately where he sees him. Does he think he can step up to the U23 level, or does he say, well, look, we've got these tournaments. I've got these guys I want to look at. I'm going to take Sam Vines to the Olympics. Bello's age eligible for the U20s. Vines, I think, is not. I might be wrong in that. But I'm going to take the older guy to the Olympics. Bello will have an Olympics. Yeah, he would. As a U23. He would have an Olympics in the next go-round. So I'm going to go ahead and take Bello to the 20s and take the other guy to the U23, the Olympics. So it's not like Bello's not going to get to pick. He's not that guy. Christian Pulisic, Gio Reyna, they would get some say over it. Like, and for them, it wouldn't be the U20s. Or for Gio, I mean, he'd be age eligible, but he's not going to play U20 World Cup. It would be like Olympics or Gold Cup. If their clubs are going to say, look, we don't want you to play in both, but we'll let you play in one. The national team could mandate he plays in the Gold Cup because they have to call him up for that. But if you have a relationship with Chelsea and they say, look, we've got enough rotation, if Christian wants to play in the Olympics, because some players really do, we'll let him do it. We've got enough to cover it. We'll do that. It'll be good for everybody. And Christian might say, well, if I will do that, then I don't want to play in the Gold Cup. You see what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
There sometimes it comes to that conversation. Bello's not at that level to have that conversation and be able to pick where he wants to go. Pulisic could. Reyna could, I think. And I might even be giving him too much credit. I would probably say Pulisic is the main one. If Christian Pulisic came into Soccer House and said, I want to play in the Olympics, I don't care about anything else, I want to play in the Olympics, make it happen, then he wouldn't play in anything else, and he would play in the Olympics. I don't think the Olympics have the same kind of pull for the U.S. players as like it did for Argentina in that case. Argentina's always taken the Olympics seriously. Winning, it's been a big deal. They won back-to-back in 04 and 08. Messi wanted to be part of that 08 team really badly to the point that he was threatening war with Barcelona at that point over it, and they made it happen. Here, I don't know if any of the American players would really care that much about, I got to go to the Olympics. I just don't think it has as much cachet.
Sam Vines turned 21 back in May.
Okay, so yeah, he would be Olympic age, and Bello would be Olympic age for one more cycle, so you'd probably have Bello go to the U20s.
Yeah, that was when I saw that Sam is 21 as of the end of May. I figured that would be the split where Vines would go one way and Bello would go the other.
Possibly. I mean, that's just a guess.
Yeah. A lot of folks on Twitter are discussing meat and lentils. It is not a soccer discussion.
Yeah, do you even know what a lentil is?
I know it exists. I probably couldn't pick it out of a lineup at a grocery store.
Do you know what section in the grocery store it would be in?
Probably what, a vegetable?
Like, what do you think? What do you think it'd be near? Like, what other stuff do you think it'd be near?
Oh God.
What's in that section? What's in that aisle?
Lentil. I mean, it's.
What does it look like?
Isn't it like the small, like the small dot thing that
small dot thing?
Yeah, I mean it's like the head of a pin.
I mean that's a decent description. So I'll let you have that one. But where would you get it in the grocery store?
I would think that you'd get it in the vegetable section.
In the vegetable section, so like next to the celery and cucumbers and such. No,
the other way. I mean,
what other way? What other way? What does this mean?
No, not like celery and. I mean, isn't it like
onions, like potatoes? I mean, what are you putting it near?
Like I'm putting it up like beans and things.
There you go. That's not the vegetable section, by the way.
So produce, fine.
No, that's not the produce section at all. Like you keep making it worse. That's like over in the rice and beans aisle.
Okay, so it's in the rice and beans aisle. Because when my mother was on her health food kick when I was in high school, she tried to pass lentil soup off to us, and I was not a fan. Still not a fan. Haven't had a lentil pass through in a meal in quite some time, and I remembered it when I was a kid and wasn't a fan then. Still not a fan now.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
This show.
Yeah. Rope says the boss must shake her head constantly.
No, actually, the boss knows. I don't think the boss is a lentil fan either. So
I don't think we're talking just about lentils. Just in general.
Well, if it's outside of lentils, I'm sure that there's a certain amount of the same reaction that you give me on the Twitch pitch when they get to see your reactions about these kinds of things.
Yeah, man, I had lentils. When did I have lentils? A couple weeks ago, I think.
Okay, you can have mine.
What do you actually eat besides frozen foods?
Oh, well, I mean, sandwiches. I mean, I'm
I eat sandwiches.
Ugh.
Good
No,
grief.
I'm not above a good peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and I'll usually have two.
Fine, but like we're talking about meals here, and you go peanut butter and jelly.
Well, the boss isn't here in the house, so therefore that's probably what dinner will be. Actually, will it be dinner tomorrow? Yeah, it might be dinner tomorrow. Actually,
Man, it's really sad. It's really sad.
Nothing like having a college freshman a part of what's going on. Yeah.
Look, I at least had a microwave when I was a college freshman, so I was doing more than just peanut butter and jelly.
I did. I'm trying to remember when I was a senior, when I was actually in an off-campus apartment. That was when had a microwave.
Oh wow! Middle school diet. That is absolutely appropriate. Burned. You are dead on. Winter Wind is suggesting you have maybe a batch of beef and barley or lentil soup.
The beef, yeah. The barley, perhaps with the beef, but no lentils. Although Domer is doing the lentil vegetable soup, and he's got leftover wild rice mushroom stew.
You would
That actually sounds pretty good.
Really? Wow, that I'm really actually surprised about.
Well, the wild rice and the mushrooms in the stew, if there's beef involved.
No, it was. I think he made it very clear it was a vegetarian dish.
Oh, well, then I probably would. If Domer were to bring some by to the house, I probably would add beef to it.
Yep. Anything else you want to talk about on the Twitters, John?
Antina says it didn't know where I was going with haven't had a lentil pass through.
I didn't either. I was just going to let it go and see what happened.
But no, apparently my anti-lentilian eating philosophy has monopolized Twitter.
It does tend to break things. While things are broken, why don't we hear from the owners-elect at Wrexham?
Not sure what to get your special someone this holiday?
Tired of them opening the same old scarf or sweater? Try Ivor Williams Trailers.
Ivor Williams Trailers has been Britain's leading trailer manufacturer for over 60 years.
Nothing says I'm thinking about you and your horse like Ivor Williams Trailer. Tilt bed, beaver tail, tipper, horse box, livestock, you name it.
So, if you're looking to really wow them this year,
and you own livestock,
visit
Ivor Williams. Why are Rob and I pitching a North Walian trailer manufacturer?
Well, because we just became owners of Wrexham Association Football, and they're our team sponsor. You may have never heard of Wrexham, the racecourse ground, or
Ivor Williams,
but you will. So to the Wrexham Supporters Trust, thank you for your faith and trust in us.
We are humbled, and we're already getting to work. This is really happening.
Here they come, our mighty champions. Raise your voices to the anthem. Marching line, our mighty army. Wrexham is the name.
What were you doing with your arms?
I was showing enthusiasm and going in rhythm with the song, searching for the twos and fours.
No, you were just flailing them around. It was a little scary.
No. Flailing, for those watching on the Twitch pitch and for those listening, my arms were going back and forth like I was doing a very high arm movement during a walk. It was flailing to me means that there's no real tightness to it. It's just they're all kind of flying all over the place. You know, for those watching on the Twitch pitch, I'm going to do a visual here and go just like that. That's flailing to me, like you're trying to find your balance and your rhythm. What I was doing was in concert with the song, and I was in unison with the beat.
Okay.
It's
All
just
right.
a distinct difference than flailing than what I was attempting to do.
All right. Chad Ochocinco has chimed in about the U.S. men's national team match.
Oh, I thought he was going to say that you chimed in about Wrexham.
No, not yet. Andrew Severin on Twitter tweeted at Ochocinco and said, "Why are you always tweeting about club soccer, but when our boys with the USMNT put on a show, we don't hear from you?" Chad's response, "We played Panama. Are you serious?" That sums up how I felt about the match today.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chad. You summed it up better than I could. Okay. So let's get caught up on some of the news from today that maybe you have not heard as of yet. Spain has a big match against Germany tomorrow. Spain has to win League A4 and progress to the Final Four of the Nations League. We don't know who's going to start in goal for Spain. It's kind of weird to be in this spot for a team like Spain, but Kepa is Kepa and not playing on a regular basis for Chelsea and a walking calamity. David De Gea, pretty much a walking calamity for a while now. And it's been Unai Simon the last couple of matches, and he was So, yes, Gustavo, I am being sarcastic today. It is true. I don't know who gets it. Luis Enrique told everybody, he said, "I have decided who the goalkeeper will be, but I don't tell the players who is going to play until an hour and a half before the game."
Okay.
So, somebody will be in goal. I guess I'd go to De Gea. I trust him a little bit more than Kepa or
You don't
Simon
sound
at
too
this
sure.
point. Well, that's the three options you have. I mean, Simon had a couple of games and didn't really show a ton, so I'm not playing Kepa.
Yeah, no, I ain't playing Kepa.
So I'll give it to De Gea. We'll get into Sergio Ramos in just a minute, Winterwind. Don't you worry. There's been news on Sergio Ramos as well.
Yeah.
French coach Didier Deschamps is telling Olivier Giroud to sort out his situation at Chelsea. Otherwise, he could compromise his future for the national team. Deschamps told French radio, "Olivier Giroud knows it. The situation he's in today cannot drag on forever. Before March, he will have to find another situation than this one." 3 appearances in the Premier League this season. Started on the bench against Portugal. He ain't playing, so we ain't playing for France.
Yeah.
And we'll see if Deschamps' demands are met with a move from Giroud in January. We'll see if he puts some pressure on that. Things have not been so good for Croatia since the World Cup final, to the point that their coach, Zlatko Dalic, is basically telling the federation, "You want to fire me? Go ahead. I don't care. Bring it." He said, "I am afraid of nothing because I am doing the best job I can. If they think I am not good enough, let someone else take over. We finished runners-up in the 2018 World Cup and cruised through our Euro 2020 qualifying group. I know we are not good enough at the moment, but that's reality. I am frustrated and under pressure, but that's part of the job. Rather than complain, I will show that I am proud to be in charge of Croatia. I am still confident and motivated to carry on in the face of adversity." You know, I mean, they were already a little older in the 2018 World Cup. This is 2 years on. You've got some players who've retired from the national team. It's been not so good in the Nations League. So people are saying, maybe it's time to move on. They might get relegated to the second tier of the Nations League. Sergio Ramos was brought up by Winter Wind, and we'll go ahead and jump over to that. This came from Josep Pedrerol of El Chiringuito TV. Pretty big outlet out of Spain. Florentino Perez has reportedly told Sergio Ramos that he would understand if Ramos gets a good offer and leaves Real Madrid. Now, Ramos is out of contract at the end of the season. You hear that, and you're like, oh, well, they want him to leave. The other side is that Florentino Perez is reportedly willing to give Sergio Ramos a 2-year deal worth 12 million euro, but he hasn't made the offer yet. If that is offered, it is expected that Ramos would sign it. So we're in this weird game of chicken at the moment. There are rumors about PSG.
Everybody's rumored to PSG.
Yeah, and they're not going to sign everybody, though. So it's like, yeah, everybody's rumored to PSG, but what does that actually mean? Ramos would be crazy to leave Real Madrid. I mean, he is Real Madrid.
Yeah.
Like, he would be crazy to leave. It would have to be an obscene amount of money And center backs at his age don't get obscene amounts of money.
No.
He should play whatever game he's got to play to get as much as he can at Real Madrid for as long as he can, and he should retire there and go down as a legend. I know he didn't start there, but he has been there for most of his career. He is Real Madrid. He should not finish anywhere else. He should not go to PSG. He should finish at Real Madrid. So I hope whatever happens, he gets his 2-year deal. He says, that's it. I'm playing 2 more years, and I'm done. I'm not going to the Middle East. I'm not going to China. I'm not coming to MLS. I am finishing it out at Real Madrid, and then I'm going home. That is what he should do, in my opinion. We'll see if he does. Real Madrid's generally taking care of him. So I think they will here. So we'll find out, but he's still critical for Spain. I mean, if he goes and plays 2 more years, so you sign through the end of the 2022-2023 season, that would potentially take him to 1 more World Cup, and he'd probably go, be playing, and be over 200 caps because he's insane, and then retire that summer. That's a pretty good way to go out.
Yeah.
Do it. So that's what I hope happens, and we'll just have to wait and see.
All right, so Mike, before you move on, you mentioned Sergio Ramos in the possibility of another jersey.
Yeah.
So if he goes and if he doesn't stay at Real Madrid, ends up in another jersey someplace somewhere,
right?
Who else registers in your head that would just look weird or has looked weird in the past? Playing for another team, wearing another jersey that wasn't them for their last year or two in their careers. Who else looked that odd? If Ramos were to move on, who else looked that odd in the past?
Let's see. It's probably a long list. Diego Maradona at Sevilla was very odd. John Harkes with the Columbus Crew was very odd. Brian McBride with the Chicago Fire was kind of odd. I would say Cuauhtemoc Blanco for one of the 75 different teams he played for after leaving the Chicago Fire, but I'll pick Irapuato as the one that was the oddest because I actually saw him play in that kit at Silverbacks Park. Ronaldinho with Querétaro, that was odd. Iniesta in Japan has been odd. Daniele De Rossi at Boca was odd.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a bunch. Like, it's not that uncommon.
Yeah, because what popped into my head was like Johnny Unitas with the San Diego Chargers, Joe Namath as an LA Ram.
You go to the mid-'70s for the references.
I go to the mid-'70s NFL.
Good job.
That was the first thing that popped into my head.
Good job. How about... Oh, man.
Dale Murphy as a Colorado Rocky.
Yes, that was odd. He went to the Phillies, too, and that was odd. Lothar Matthäus with the Metro Stars was odd and stupid. There's been a bunch of them. Like, it's no big surprise. Winter Wind has a question about how credible El Futbolero is as an outlet. They're saying that Atlanta is in the mix with Miami and the LA Galaxy for Luka Modric. That would make me think it's not very credible. But share the tweet, Winter Wind, so I can make sure I know which Futbolero you were talking about, because I don't think that is very credible. Mario Kempes played for a small club in Austria called Vienna. That was weird. Yeah, that was weird. I didn't know that one. You got lots of weird ones like in the old NASL days, and you've had them in MLS too. I mean, Denilson with FC Dallas was odd.
Oh, yeah.
You've had plenty of them. So it happens. It probably happens more in soccer than in other sports. But Ramos should not leave Real Madrid. Brett Favre with the Vikings, Rope says. Brett Favre with the Jets is even hotter to me.
Oh, yeah.
Montana with Kansas City, yes. I do not know El Futbolero USA. I do not know this outlet. So I am going to go with not very credible.
Yeah.
I don't know Tomas Salazar, who wrote this. Yeah, I'm gonna go with not very credible. That can always be changed. That can always take some different directions. But at this moment, I would have to go with not very credible. Sorry, El Futbolero. Maybe you can change that over time. They are not in the A group of credible sources.
Juice boxes for tomorrow in League A after the discussion that we had.
Sure. What do we got in Europe?
Croatia's a plus 250, so it might not be looking good for that coach.
Well, who are they playing?
Portugal. Portugal's a plus 110.
Where is it?
It's in Croatia.
It is in Croatia. I don't know exactly how the Croats are with their backs against the wall. I would assume pretty good.
Yeah.
But do they have enough talent? I am going to go with no, and I will not advise any juice boxes or Thanksgiving side dishes on that one.
No, and right now through 5 matches, Croatia and Sweden are tied at 3 points for third and fourth. In Group 3 in League A, France has 13 points. Portugal has 10 heading into the competition tomorrow. France at home, minus 172 against Sweden, who is a plus 550. Your draw is a plus 290.
Tell me what these things mean. Like, do you have to win your group in the Nations League to make it? I think you do.
Yeah, because then if you don't, and I think that if you finish fourth, you end up in League B.
You get relegated.
Around. Yeah.
If you win your group, you go to the Final Four. If you're second or third, you get to hang out.
Yeah.
How many games are left?
Just this one in the group stage.
So,
yeah, that's it.
Well, then let's talk about it in that way, because otherwise it's confusing. Let's start with League A Group 1.
Uh-huh.
You got Italy leading it on 9. You got the Dutch on 8. You got Poland on 7. So this is actually very interesting. Italy goes to Bosnia and Herzegovina, who is being relegated. They can't avoid relegation. And Poland hosts the Netherlands. Give me the Dutch and Poland number.
The Dutch and Poland number is, let's see. When are they playing? Oh, there we go. They play...
Is it Wednesday?
On Wednesday, 245. Poland a plus 293. The Netherlands a minus 110. Your draw is a plus 270.
I'm kind of thinking draw. I do think Italy gets a draw in Bosnia. Italy's missing like 543 different players. They've had to naturalize like 10 guys, and they've had to bring in a coach who was in Serie D, and not really, I'm exaggerating. I think they're missing 20 players in their coach.
It's 20.
That's no big deal. So can they go to Bosnia and get a result? Probably, because Bosnia and Herzegovina is eliminated. So I think Italy will get through there. I don't know if the Dutch can go to Poland and win to put that extra pressure on. But that could be worth a watch on Wednesday afternoon. Group 2, Belgium leads it with 12. Denmark has 10. Iceland's getting relegated.
Yeah, and I figured you would enjoy this because Iceland has scored in 5 matches 3 goals.
Yeah, that's no surprise. They're awful going forward. It's very boring.
And they have given up 13.
So that group will come down to Belgium hosting Denmark. Denmark's got to go to Belgium and win. I don't think they do. So I don't even care what the juice boxes are. Group 3, France, you said, had a 3-point lead. They do. So all they need is a draw against Sweden at home to get through. Portugal's got to go to Croatia and win. Croatia and Sweden are fighting it out for the bottom. So that's the only interesting one here. I think France wins the group. And, I think Croatia survives.
Okay.
I think they survive. I think Sweden gets relegated. And in Group 4, the other game to watch in Nations League this week is Spain hosting Germany. If Spain wins, then they win the group. If Germany draws or wins, they win the group. The Ukraine, I guess it's feasible for them to get there somehow, some way. No, actually, could they? No, they could not. There's no way they could get there. So they're locked into third. No, actually, Switzerland could jump them. Okay, so that could get interesting on that game too. But Spain, Germany, what are the numbers on that one? Because that's the most interesting game.
Right. Spain plus 135, Germany plus 200. Your draw is a plus 250.
I will go with Spain to win, and to win the group, they find a way. David De Gea makes a couple of big saves and doesn't wet himself.
Not a pleasant mental image that was just registered into my brain.
I could have went with like 5 other things that would have been worse, John.
Yeah, just the notion of David De Gea wetting himself.
Kepa did for like weeks on end.
Oh, he just threw up all over himself. It wasn't even wetting yourself.
That's fine. I think Spain finds a way. So I agree with Bernd, though, in general. The Nations League is not that relevant. No. It's not. It is about which pot you end up for in World Cup qualifying. The Dutch already guaranteed pot 1. They're good. Mission accomplished. Yep, I totally agree. But, people will react. If the Dutch don't win, he's only won 1. Well, he's only lost 1. So, but that's going to happen. So, waiting for that reaction.
Yeah, Poland is a plus 293 at home. The Netherlands a minus 110. Your draw is a plus 270.
Yeah, I don't care. Sorry, Frank. I don't care.
You want? Here's your big number on the board. It's with your buddies in Iceland.
Yeah, they are not doing anything.
No, but it's the largest number on the board.
Because they stink.
Plus 1450 against England in England. England's a minus 525.
Well, Lottie frickin' God!
That's how I feel about Iceland. Is there anything interesting in the other ones? Scotland goes to Israel, and they've got a 1-point lead in the group over the Czech Republic. That could be dicey for them. Russia goes to Serbia. Russia and Hungary are battling it out for their group. Turkey's still in that mix, too, and Hungary's got to host Turkey. That could be one of those sleeper kind of wild games. The Welsh, they play Finland. That's actually a good one. That's Wednesday. It's in Wales, and Wales has a 1-point lead at the top of the group. So if they draw or win, they go through. Finland has to win in Wales and Cardiff to go through. Ireland and Bulgaria are playing for the wooden spoon of League B Group 4. What is Wales and Finland?
Wales at home, one of the 8 games in League B on Wednesday afternoon at 2:45. Wales is a minus 108 at home. Finland a plus 325, and your draw is a plus 230.
Finland went to France and won a friendly recently. Then they went to Bulgaria and won. I am on the Finnish train, and they go and they beat that sorry defensive team from Wales that we saw last week, and Finland shocks the world and gets to move up into League A next season. Yay, Nations League.
Yay, Nations League. Odds on Gareth Bale watching something on his iPad.
He'll be playing.
Okay.
It's a game that matters, John. He'll be playing. He's not going to sit out to watch the highlights of the Masters. And they're not going to play him in a friendly because they know he could, barely be bothered to play in a real game. League C, is there anything interesting here? We don't get maybe we do. No, I thought we might get a classic Montenegro-Luxembourg match to decide League C Group 1. We do not. They play different teams.
Montenegro, though, is a home favorite against the Cypriots.
Because they're in last and they're bad. Let's see what we got here. North Macedonia goes to Armenia.
Yeah.
And that one will decide the group. in League C Group 2. So that could be a sneaky good game at noon on Wednesday.
Yep.
Anything interesting in Group 3? Yeah, Greece hosts Slovenia, and they can win the group. Slovenia only needs to draw or win that game to win the group, so that could be a sneaky good game.
They're favored.
Who is?
Greece, minus 125. Slovenia's on the north end of plus 400, and your draw's a plus 225.
Wow, no, not much respect for Slovenia. Your Faroe Islands are going to Malta trying to win the group. Malta could catch them. Malta, yeah, they could catch them, and they could flip the goal difference, too.
Malta's a home dog.
That's a classic island matchup between the Faroe Islands and Malta. Anything can happen when those two lock horns, that's for sure.
And to get a Faroe Islands jersey, it's like $125, including shipping.
Because they probably make them by hand in Sven's basement. I don't know if it's Sven or not, but I'm just going to go with Sven. That feels like a Faroe Island kind of name.
Yeah, but by the way, I will say this. The Faroe Islands National Stadium is very, very cool looking.
Oh, yeah, it is. No, that's true. We have, let me make sure I get this right. Obama Blood Clot Yang hanging out in the Twitch pitch and asking, why is Gareth Southgate playing 3 central defensive midfielders versus Belgium? I have not seen that. That is an interesting strategy that Gareth Southgate might be rolling out against Belgium. There's been questions about Gareth Southgate. I didn't watch the match, so sorry, Obama. There's been, who was it who came out today? I think it was Mito, who came out and said that England are never going to go anywhere with Southgate as the manager. They should hire Jose Mourinho and let Southgate run the FA because they're better suited to do those jobs. And I'm like, wait a minute. He did get to a World Cup semifinal a couple years ago.
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, he's not a bum.
No.
I don't know. I'm assuming, Obama, that he just felt like he can't compete with them. The hardest thing right now is just everything with the COVID stuff and all the different injuries and just how it's affecting you and player availability and all this stuff. So it's a little hard to judge all these guys at the moment. I'm of the mind basically to give a lot of managers the benefit of the doubt right now.
Yeah.
I do worry at times about Southgate being a little too defensive. I do have that concern at times, and that's something that's going to need to be answered, especially with all the young, exciting attacking talent. But right now, I'd have to dig deeper into who he might not have had available and what he felt like was the best way to get a result. So I'm not gonna criticize him too harshly. But if you have a take, please let us know for sure. In the Twitch pitch. Thanks for hanging out with us. Burned has a question, or has a comment. Have we talked about Yogi Love playing 5 center backs against, checks notes, Ukraine? He played 3 in the back, plus 1 center back at wing back, plus 1 center back at the 6. He has officially gone bonkers.
Damn.
I think he has gone bonkers. I think he's been bonkers for a while. This is just part of it. It feels like he's just throwing things at the wall and like, sure, let's see what happens. Why not? I got a World Cup trophy. Let's do it. And they haven't moved on. I thought they were going to move on after the last World Cup.
Yeah.
Like, he's been there
Since 1872.
No. He was there in 2008 for the Euros. I'm almost sure. I think he took over immediately after Clinzy left after the 2006 World Cup. So let's say he took over in 2007, and he's still there. That's bold. 2010 was promising. 2014 he won the thing. So, okay, if you're going to stick with him, he did win the World Cup, so all right. And in 2018, they got bounced, and they were bad. So why is he still there? What is going on? That's the thing I don't get. I mean, at this point, he's crazy. I just accept it.
Let's see. July 12, 2006, following Clincy's decision not to renew his contract, Löw was named as the new manager of Germany.
It was
so
right
July 12, 2006.
Well, that was immediately after the World Cup in 2006. So
right.
He played some games at the second half of the year in 2006. Okay. I just don't. I don't know. I don't know why he's still there. That's the thing that's got me about Yogi Love. It's like, what's he still doing there? They should have moved on before. Winterwind says, I'm convinced he's got some serious dirt on the Federation at this point.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Burns says, I think everybody at the Federation, including himself, has realized that he should have left after 18. He is a dead man walking. What are they waiting for then? Are they just waiting to finish the Nations League? Are they waiting to see what happens in League A, Group 2? I mean, or no, sorry, they're not in Group 2. They're in Group 4. My bad. Sorry to disrespect the Nations League. I mean, if they don't win the group, is that going to be enough just to say, all right, thank you, please, here's your gold watch, it's time to go? There's got to be a club who wants to hire you. It's time. You're in that weird phase of your career where you're doing concept albums, and it's just bad.
Oh, yeah.
You're doing the weird tours where you're playing like non-traditional venues.
So he's like Van Morrison?
Maybe so. And you're just doing weird things to be weird. So stop. Go home. Rest up. Eat some schnitzel.
Who was the last music artist to go down that road? That just kind of went sideways and just did the concept album, and everybody was like, dude, what are you doing?
I mean, Prince did a lot of that. Anybody who went for a while. Burn, that's an interesting one. Obama first asked who everybody supports. So let everybody, those of you watching on the Switch Pitch, chime in. Throw that in. Obama, we're based in Atlanta. So I do radio for Atlanta United. John and I do the calls for Atlanta United 2, the reserve team for Atlanta United. So obviously we're a little biased about Atlanta United and MLS. Who is your team in England, or do you have a team? I mean, I know you're part of like trusts.
Yeah.
That's probably one of them calling now.
No.
Is that Ryan Reynolds calling now?
If it was calling now, then no, it's somebody who's probably wanting some really important piece of information involving this household that under no circumstances I would ever give. And
sure.
No matter how many times you tell them not to call the number anymore and take you off of their calling list, they keep calling back with like one number different in the suffix, just to make it, different and annoying. Let's see. So for me, it's all the trusts that I'm tied to. It's Swansea City in the Championship. It is AFC Wimbledon. I just got my renewal for my 7th season of being a part of the Dons Trust in League One. Portsmouth and Scunthorpe in League Two. So those are the 4 that I'm attached. Those are the 4 trusts that I'm attached to.
I know that's weird, Obama. That we smile and nod, and we pat him on the back.
Thought it was the top of the head.
No, it's patting you on the back. The first team that I had a chance here in the U.S. to see on a regular basis in England was Manchester United. I know everybody's like, oh, yeah, of course, everybody's a Manchester United fan. It was the first team I had a chance to like get to know, because we didn't get games on a regular basis in the mid-'90s. We would get like a game a week on delay on one of the sports channels or Fox whatevers or who knows. And it was the year where Cantona came back from being suspended for kung fu kicking a Palace fan in the stands.
Yeah.
And they went to Newcastle. And I remember watching the replay of that game. Of course, I didn't see it live. We didn't have internet like we do now, so I didn't know what happened. And that was the game where they were like 9 or 10 points back around the Christmas break, or around the festive fixtures, and they went and they won in Newcastle. I think Cantona scored. I think it was his first goal back. And then they went on a run of games where they were winning like 1-0 or 2-1 late with a goal late to win, and usually it was Cantona, but it was Beckham's first, it was the kids. It was the season where they said you can't win anything with kids. And Beckham and Giggs, who had played a decent bit by that point, and the Neville brothers and Nicky Butt and Paul Scholes, Roy Keane, like that was the group that, I loved that team. So that's the first team I saw on a regular basis. So in England, that's who I support. I can't say like I'm hardcore do or die or anything like that. I follow American soccer more closely, but that would be the team that I take an interest in. Ed Woodward needs to go and hide and leave
Just
everybody
go.
alone. He's very bad. Very, very bad.
Just go, Ed. Just go.
So Byrne says about Yogi Love, the old take was that they were waiting for Klopp to leave Liverpool to come to Germany. I don't think that timing lines up either. I don't think he leaves Liverpool soon, maybe in a couple of years. But they just got to get somebody on there. But as Winter Wind says, it's conceivable that he's there because no one wants to take on the train wreck that things are now, which is potentially true. I would think with the talent you have, you could come in and fix that. It'd be interesting. Gustavo says national team coaches don't lead as many games per year as in clubs, therefore they get quite bored, and boredom leads to excesses. That is very good, Gustavo.
And concept albums. Yeah.
Yes, it does. It leads to crazy things, crazy things. Obama's an Arsenal fan. I kind of assumed that. Yes, thank you.
Yes.
So cool. Everybody's chiming in. Good stuff. Appreciate it. Obama says, oh my God, no offense. I hated United because they were so good back in the day. Yeah. It was, I mean, they were the club that probably got the most play on this side. So there's a lot of American Manchester United fans from that era. But then people who got into the league just a little bit later when it was more accessible, there were a lot of Arsenal fans too. Like, I've always felt like around that time, there were Manchester United fans and there were Arsenal fans. There was a smaller number of Liverpool fans around that time in the U.S., and most of them, it felt like they were expats, not like American Liverpool fans. That's changed now, obviously. Chelsea has boomed. Like, when they first got big, it didn't feel like there were a lot of American Chelsea fans. That's changed dramatically. The Chelsea fans at the local pub here, the Brew House, at that time were all expats, and there was a very small number of them. Manchester United and Arsenal had more of the American fans. Liverpool had a sizable fan base in the Atlanta area, mostly expat, and Chelsea was small and almost entirely guys from London. And that was kind of what it was from like the mid-90s to the mid-2000s. So now it's totally different. I mean, now you've got a pretty sizable Leicester supporters group here in Atlanta. You've got a pretty sizable West Ham supporters group here in Atlanta. Aston Villa has a lot of fans here in Atlanta. Manchester City has a large supporters group here in Atlanta now. I mean, it's blown up because of NBC and having those games on all the time. So people have, like, not just the big teams, but picked a smaller team to be a fan of. So that's been really interesting to see, actually.
Did you see what happened with Gambia and Gabon, speaking of Arsenal and Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang?
Yeah, and I wanted to talk about this because I'm not surprised about what happened. So if you remember, we talked about it this morning. Gabon flew into Gambia, and they were not allowed to leave the airport. Some administrative thing. And they had to sleep on the floor in the airport. And eventually, a government intervention allowed them to leave the airport. Well, they lost today, 2-1.
Yeah.
To Gambia, which now gives Gambia a chance to get to the AFCON finals for the first time and puts them level at the top of the group with Gabon. That's madness. Other results from Africa, Algeria booked their spot. They joined Senegal, who'd qualified on Sunday. So you got 2 in the 24-team field. It's going to be in Cameroon in early 22. Botswana upset Zambia to move up to 3rd. Zambia won the 2012 competition. They're last in the group. South Sudan, who's only been independent since 2011, they took a big win. I think their first big win over Uganda in Nairobi. They had to play it in Kenya because their own stadium isn't fit to play in for international football, but they got the win. They're still bottom of the group, but they got a win. Yep. Cameroon are playing in the preliminaries. They won 2-0 in Mozambique. Let's see. South Africa won 4-2 over Sao Tome e Principe, which is a country I did not know competed. They must be a fairly new FIFA member.
You're just making things up at this point.
No, it's real, man. South Africa won 4-2 over tiny Sao Tome e Principe. I'm thinking that is Portuguese.
Remember that time South Africa beat France in the World Cup group stages because France had a mutiny like 2 days before? That was fun.
Yes. That World Cup was a lot of fun for the French. Sao Tome.
That World Cup was awesome. That was awesome for South Africa. Like between hosting and then getting to see their team beat the French last group stage game, that was awesome.
Yes. Okay. Let me make sure I got this right. So, Sao Tome e Principe, when did they become independent? We go down in 1975. We go down some rabbit holes on this show from time to time, if you guys did not know that. When did they become part of FIFA? That's the part I want to know, because I've never heard of them playing in these competitions.
Definitely.
That's the part that I'm surprised by. But anyway, yes, heavily Portuguese. They were previously a Portuguese colony. So there you go.
1485 was when the island city, the island nation part of the equator was actually founded.
Well, probably discovered, wouldn't that be?
Yeah.
The proper word.
Yeah, founded, discovered, yes.
Founded? They
founded,
built it?
Hey! Yes, I hereby find you, therefore you're
That's
founded.
called discovered. Oh, my God, you're butchering the English language now. Amazing. Here's a little sample of their anthem. Maybe. It gets jaunty. I like it. I have a new team. I will be a Sao Tome e Principe fan.
Let's see.
The closer your anthem sounds to something that is kind of a big band vibe, the more I'm on board here.
Yeah, and that is Jarrett Smith chiming in, if you did not know. He is not available on video. That's why he has just a picture there. It is not Gennaro Gattuso chiming in. He's just our mascot.
Sounds
God,
like 2000. Sounds like 2002 was when they started qualifying for FIFA tournaments. They withdrew from the one in 1994. Did not enter or qualify in AFCON. As they were part of Portugal from 57 to 74. Withdrew in 2004. And so that's where we are.
Very nice. Obama says the Nigeria-Sierra Leone game was crazy. Yeah, I did not see that one live. I wish I had. We've had a player here in Atlanta for the second division team before Atlanta United started, the Atlanta Silverbacks, who played for Sierra Leone. I think Abdul ended up getting about 10 caps with Sierra Leone. Came over here when he was pretty young.
I looked it up one time.
Yeah, I think it was 10 or 11. Mostly in like friendlies and non-competitive matches, but he played with their big stars in those games. And I mean, he's a kid who his cousin played at North Clayton High School. He played in college here, and he played professionally in Sweden for a little bit before coming back home. He coaches for Soccer in the Streets now and does a great job with that. He's the perfect person to be doing it. So I've always got kind of a soft spot for Sierra Leone. Really cool to see them come back and have that game. Really, really cool to see that. I'd love to see them qualify for something. I always hope that they can get enough of that talent, because they have a lot of talent. Sierra Leone and Liberia are the two that I always kind of look at, because I had a kid who played in high school with me. He was an exchange student from Liberia. Incredible player. Would have played professionally, would have played internationally. But he did his knee his first year of college. The only reason he went to college at that point was because he wasn't playing club. He'd only been in the country for 2 years. And he couldn't play at a major college because his SAT scores weren't good enough, because he was still learning English. So he went to Spartanburg Methodist and tore his knee up really bad his freshman year. Played at he went to Clemson for a year. He didn't play a ton. And he went to UNC Greensboro and played in the NCAA tournament and did well, but he wasn't the same player. So those are my two countries in Africa that I really hope make something big. Cameroon's the one, just because they were the first one that I really saw in a World Cup, and I would always, when I'd play pickup games, I'd try to wear Cameroon's colors. green shirt, red shorts, and yellow socks. Love that combination.
So, Jarrett, what's on your mind?
He probably left.
Well, no. Honestly, this kind of ventures into one of my favorite conversations. If we cross the sporting threshold here, it's the same thing as like, oh man, that quarterback is slow in football. Yeah, like the slowest quarterback in the NFL is faster than most human beings, in the same sense that like, oh, we know a guy who played 10 caps for Sierra Leone, most of them not in high leverage games, which is still like better than 99.8% of human beings on this planet will ever do in terms of just like accomplishments and talent. You're like, he played just 10 caps for the national team. Yeah, that's a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of percentage of people, just to get a concept of the talent that like what we think of as talent. Because it's always the thing for me that the person you played against in high school who was really good, because I know I played against plenty of them. I played baseball in Cobb County where like they just churned out college guys left and right. A bunch of those college guys are really good, or high school guys are really good. They went to college, didn't do anything. The few who did went to the pro. I played against one guy out of all of those who made it pro. I think that's the terrifying part of it all, in terms of just raw talent. As far as non-talent things are concerned, what else is on my mind? Scotland. Scotland's on my mind.
Today.
Why is Scotland on your mind now?
Because they made the Euro. They made a major tournament for the first time in 20-plus years.
That was like days ago, Jarrett.
Yeah, we haven't talked since then.
In Scotland, today.
They're still drunk in Scotland today. That's
they're
what's
still
going
celebrating. You know it.
Yes. That is accurate.
The best tweet still was one of y'all put it in my feed of, if you want to cure coronavirus, this was perfect. Because now every university student in Edinburgh is going to crack open a chemistry textbook and find an instant cure for coronavirus so that they have an excuse to go slander the hell out of the entire English national team at Wembley next summer.
That is accurate.
You've given them the excuse.
Mm-hmm. That game's going to be absurd.
Oh. But, I mean, and I still,
That game's going to make England-Colombia look like a walk in the park.
Yes.
And, I mean, but I love Mark Donaldson's call throughout that match. I thought it was great. And then the post-match stuff in the mix zone, well, it just reminds you about how important moments like that are on the world stage. But that's just me thinking out loud, Jared.
That call, the call is one of my favorite calls I've ever heard, and not even just because of the saved call. It's after the fact where he talks about, since this is bonus coverage on ESPN, I don't have to be a neutral commentator, so we're just gonna go for it, y'all.
Yep.
I appreciate the just blatant honesty that comes with that. Sort of like the call of Chris Davis brings it out from the back of the end zone, sort of energy of just
the Rod Bramlett energy from Mark Donaldson.
Well, if you missed it, here's what it sounded like.
Mitrovic against Marshall. Saved! Saved! Scotland are going to the Euros! Unbelievable! Craig Barley will not be mentioned again as the last Scottish player to score at a major tournament. What a save from David Marshall. And because this is bonus coverage on ESPN, there is no requirement for a commentator to be neutral. Someone's once said a bad word that it was beginning with an S word to be Scottish. Well, it has been since 1998 and our football is concerned. But tonight, it's not. It's brilliant. Scotland are through. Get in there.
That's pretty
Mark
awesome.
Donaldson was awesome.
Now, can you imagine if the U.S. had not made a major tournament in 22 years, in the year of our Lord 2020, and just somebody just let loose like that?
Yeah, JP Dellacamera did not let loose like that when they qualified for 1990.
No.
It was a different time. He was pretty excited.
He was. I remember the broadcast.
But, yeah, he did not go like that one.
No, and I think I wonder if it would be as just intense if it wasn't lining up to play England in the Euro group stages with the potential.
I don't even think that matters. To be honest, I don't think that
I think it does
matters.
after the fact. In the moment, no, you're right.
Yeah.
It doesn't. But it is icing on the cake.
All right. Look, this isn't news yet, but it's at least rumored, so... Larry Henry Jr. of Soccer by Ivas, SBI Soccer, has tweeted out in the last few minutes that the United States in December, on December 9th, has been linked with a friendly against El Salvador. And that would be 3 days before the MLS Cup final. It would probably just be MLS guys who are not in the MLS Cup final. So, all right, that's not bad. Is that, let me make sure where that's coming from. That is originally coming out of Salvadoran media. So keep an eye on that one. That would click with everything that's been said so far. Greg Berhalter saying they would play a game in December. You'd do it before. So anybody who's playing in MLS Cup final and probably CONCACAF Champions League matches is not going to be part of that. Everybody else from MLS could be part of that. And they're not going to bring any guys internationally because it's not a FIFA date. So there you go.
Did you see that Costa Rica lost a FIFA competition to a team that's not a FIFA recognized element?
That doesn't even make any sense, John. You can't lose a FIFA competition to a team that's not part of FIFA.
Well, it was an international friendly.
And it wasn't even official because the Basque country is not part of FIFA.
Right.
But they play
This kind of sounds
exhibition
like
games.
losing to an FCS team, though.
Yeah, it kind of is. Well, no, it's not because, I mean, they're talented. Like, that's not the issue. It's not like it's a small team that doesn't have talent.
So was App State back in the day.
No, but
I get your point.
It's not that. It's just, they're not a separate country. I mean, it's the Basque country and Catalonia play games representing their, region, but they're not FIFA members. They're not a separate country. So that's where they're not a FIFA member.
So it's North Dakota State. It might as well be its own separate country, but it's really not. But you really don't want anything to do with them, even though they're not sanctioned for FIFA. If you want to not lose a game, even if it doesn't matter,
it doesn't matter. Yeah, but it doesn't matter. So it's good competition. Yeah. Right now, it's kind of hard to get competition. Period. So I guess it's a game.
Absolutely.
What did it end up as?
2-1 against Costa Rica today.
Yeah.
Joel Campbell weeps somewhere.
Yeah, he should.
Keylor Navas was in net for the Costa Ricans today.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was a game for them. Like it,
Yep.
They haven't had other games. Like they need games. Everybody needs games right now. So I mean, yeah, they fielded their team and they lost to a team that's not a real team but a good team.
Yeah. Mondays with Reddit.
Usually that could go a lot of different directions. Right now it is going to our good friend Nicholas Bentner because he just keeps on talking about stuff. Now he's talking about his move to Juventus. And he reveals in an interview that his first day at Juventus provided an amazing sight. 10 or 12 of them in the toilets having a coffee, talking and smoking. He was speaking to BBC Radio 5 Live. And he said, it was in the bathroom. I couldn't find the guys, and it was a little bit weird. It was my first day. Obviously, I got quite quickly onto the coffee wagon as well. Then I found 10 or 12 of them in the toilets, just having a coffee, talking, enjoying each other's company, and having a cig. It was an amazing sight, and it made me feel like this was something I will enjoy. Players such as Buffon, Pirlo never made a secret of their smoking. It didn't affect their performances. What can you say to these guys? If you look at their careers and how professional they are, it was a real eye-opener to me actually regarding these two. because the professionalism they showed on the pitch and the camaraderie was on a different level, so no one thought anything of it. When Mario Balotelli exported this approach to Manchester City and Liverpool, it scandalized the British press.
Scandalized.
It's funny because you remember when Mario Balotelli came to England and everyone said about him smoking in the toilets. And it became this massive story in the paper, a player smoking. In every single club I've played in, players have been smoking. It was much more of a thing in Italy, much more of a normality than in England. I remember in the Atlanta Ruckus when I was working for them when I was in college, in the zombie 1998 season where the league took the team over and we were functioning on a letter of credit and we had to play these horrendous road trips at the end of the season to make up games. The road trip where we played in Richmond on Thursday night, then played in Hershey, Pennsylvania on Friday night, then drove to Raleigh and played Raleigh on Sunday afternoon. I will always remember the Raleigh game at halftime when we were winning 1-0 or 2-1. Our Bulgarian center back, we had two Bulgarians in that team, but I remember the center back specifically.
Of course you did.
Yeah, he played in the World Cup in '86. I don't know how he ended up in Atlanta. I don't know why he was playing for this team for a few bucks a week, but he was all in. But halftime, everything's going well. They've played 2 games in the last 3 days, so there's really nothing to say at this point. We had a player coach, so halftime was like a couple words, grab a drink of water, and our goalkeeper, who was from South Korea, and one of our forwards who was from Bulgaria, and our center back from Bulgaria, went outside the locker room just smoking as many cigarettes as they could possibly smoke for the rest of the halftime period, and then went out and won the game. They had lost 2, one in extra time, one late, and then the other one in extra time, and then come back in the third game in 4 days and win.
Oh.
It was ridiculous.
That's awesome.
And then
did they chain smoke in the middle of the first few games? Because that might be the secret here.
No, I don't think they did. At least
you go.
I don't remember if they did. Maybe you couldn't do that in Richmond and in Hershey as easily. Raleigh, you were playing in a park, so it's like, you just walk out of the locker room.
They handed out free cigarettes in Raleigh.
They should have. I do remember there was I was driving one of the vans back to Atlanta after that game, and there were some beers in the back of the van, and I was a college kid, a little worried, making sure I stayed right on the speed limit.
Yes.
But, that's what you do when you're
You want to write a
trip.
book.
Maybe. I'd have to
Statute of
maybe change
limitations is kind of an issue.
I want to make sure on this. I did, and this is maybe one of my proudest moments. I did successfully lobby on that trip. I got a speeding ticket. It was leaving Hershey, getting from Hershey back to interstates. You were going through state roads and stuff, and it was the greatest hiding spot I've ever seen a cop in. Between 2 big kind of weeping willow trees, and you couldn't see him until you were right next to him. It was really good. I was impressed. I wanted to shake his hand. I was like, that's a really good spot. He caught me going 20 miles over, and
in one of those big vans.
Yeah, the speed limit was 55 or something. So I wasn't flying. I was going 75, but I was in a van
in a 15-passenger van, because that's.
Yeah. It was the flatlands of Pennsylvania. I'm going straight for 50 miles to get to the interstate. There's nothing going on.
I would scold you had I not done the same thing driving through West Virginia a couple of years ago.
Yeah. So don't scold me. But anyway, the good thing I got pulled out of this was I hope the statute of limitations is off. I didn't commit any crimes. I got the US ISL at the time to pay for the speeding ticket because they were funding us. So I was like, I got a speeding ticket coming on this trip that you guys made us do that's insane to make up these games. So I'm going to put it on my expense report. Okay. So that was pretty cool.
Great.
That was pretty cool.
They didn't care at that point.
No, they were just happy the games were getting played. Man, we were doing it for no money. I was making more money delivering the Atlanta Journal in the afternoons, throwing papers out my window, than I was getting running this team at this point.
Who was the president of the USISL?
It was Francisco Marcos.
Yeah, there we go. Thank you.
I mean, I wasn't dealing with him directly. I don't remember who it was, but yeah, he's like, yeah, go ahead and put it on the expense report. Cool. Done.
Awesome.
Abby, yeah. Well, I don't think my old my Kia Soul can go that fast. I've done it a couple times by accident. Those things have some giddy up and go.
Yeah, they're kind of secretive when it comes to their speeds, but they can get there.
They're so light. That's the thing, is they're so light. You can really get moving in those things if you're not careful.
I'm already going to buy one probably next year anyway.
I love my Kia Soul. I don't care what people say. I love it. Absolutely love that car.
If I told you that the Beast was on its last legs, what would you say?
It's been on its last legs for like 10
honest.
years.
I was about to say, the Beast ages geologically.
Yeah.
When we say that the sun is on the back end of its life, we've still got 7 billion years, give or take, before the Earth, the sun turns into a red giant and engulfs the inner planets. But it's kind of like it's kind of middle-aged. The Beast ages the same way. It's on its last legs. Oh, cool. So we can jot it down for like another 7-8 years, right?
356,000 plus miles on that thing, and it is 24 years old.
That's absurd.
That's a 1997 model year Toyota Camry, which meant it came out in 1996. So 24 years old, 356,000 miles on it, and still gets me from point A to point B.
That's absurd.
John's car outlived the Atlanta Braves using Turner Field. Good job.
It's true. Gustavo's hanging out in the chat. I thought I might get a chance to talk some trash to Gustavo, but our derby, one of the many SDH derbies on Sunday, did not lead us to a winner. Defensa y Justicia and Independiente scoreless draw. So we share the spoils, Gustavo, and neither one of our teams are doing so well in the Copa de Liga Profesional de Futbol. Right now in the group stage, we'll be in one of the two groups after that, and it gets all stupid. I shared it with the guys. The way they're going to do the promotion for what was the second division, and now it's like they had 9 games left, and they're scrapping it, so they're like doing a brand new tournament to get 2 teams promoted. And it is the most convoluted, ridiculous thing I have ever seen in my life. It has a graphic that has a flow chart that makes no sense.
Oh, my God.
One spot's pretty easy. Like, the teams that were in the top half of the league are divided into 2. The winners of each group, they play in a final, and the winner of that gets a spot in the first division. Okay, that one's easy. The other spot, like, you have to go through, like, chutes and ladders and play Monopoly and
Donkey Kong.
It's absurd how messed up it is. It's like they try to make the competitions in Argentina as complicated as possible. It's like, no, we just want to do a round robin. No, we have to have a round robin, and then you play the team that lost over here, and then you have to play them, and then you have to play over here with 9 men against 11, and if you win that, you get to go to this place and do this, and it's stupid. It is so ridiculous.
Which is amazing considering Jason got introduced to the Scottish League's tournament
so stupid
that they use for non-European teams, where if you get a draw, you get to go immediately to a penalty shootout for the bonus point.
Bonus points!
So dumb. So dumb.
That's really all Argentina's missing is bonus point shootouts.
They've had them before. It's been a while, but they had the shootouts at one point. I want to say it was in the 90s. At some point, they had shootouts. They've had all kinds of different competition formats in Argentina. It's like they get bored of it every 2 years and do something different. The coronavirus just got everybody excited because they had a reason to do something different.
I want to lock them in a room with Scotland's governing football body. Argentina and Scotland in a room together. Give it 3 or 4 hours and see what they come up with. Kind of like monkeys and a typewriter in Shakespeare.
Well, see, they get along because they have a shared hatred of England.
This is accurate.
Blood hatred of England. Diego Maradona is like everybody's second favorite player in Scotland because of what he did to the English. So, yeah, they would absolutely get along. That would be good. All right, World Cup qualification.
They would put together the most They would put together the dumbest, most beautiful tournament you've ever seen.
Oh, no, absolutely they would. World Cup qualifiers.
I don't think Neil Doncaster would survive that room.
No, he'd be dead.
No.
He'd be dead.
Stabbed.
He would get stabbed. Somebody would bust a bottle of Fernet over his head and then stab him with the other half, and it'd be all over for Neil Doncaster.
The sad part for Neil is we don't know who would stab him, a Scotsman or an Argentine.
Both.
Yeah.
Both. Absolutely both. Gustavo says, I already told you that the Argentine Federation is mostly a political think tank with sports interests. That about sums it up. They do have a very big game, though, tomorrow, and there were some questions on if this game would get played in Peru. It is going ahead. Argentina has made it to Peru for this match. Let's talk about, there's two big games, Argentina, Peru, Brazil, and Uruguay. Both have some complications. Let's start with the other ones here, and we'll also talk about the standings as we go into round 4. So Brazil leads with 9 points. They're perfect. Argentina's on 7. They're in second. Ecuador and Uruguay are on 6. They're in 3 and 4. That's your teams that are right now going to the World Cup in 2022. Paraguay is in 5th with 5 points. Chile and Colombia are 6th and 7th with 4 points. Peru has 1 point. Remember, they qualified last time around. They got to 5th. They had to go to the playoff. Venezuela and Bolivia have nada. Venezuela has not scored. They've only conceded 5 goals in 3 games, but they have not scored a goal.
Poor Joseph.
Yeah, it's not good for them at the moment. Ecuador and Colombia kick us off. Ecuador is hosting this one. Colombia got spanked at home by Uruguay, which doesn't happen very often. Colombia is in a not so good spot at the moment. They're 2 points out of an automatic spot. They're 1 point out of a playoff spot. And they got to go to Ecuador, who's been good. What are the numbers on that, John?
Dead freaking even.
Really?
Yep. Draws a plus 225, but either side's basically a plus 168.
Give me Ecuador. I get plus 168 for the home team, and they're the better team so far? Yeah, give me Ecuador. I'm running to the window with that one. Venezuela hosts Chile. I just don't know what to make of Venezuela at this point. What are the numbers?
Venezuela plus 240, Chile plus 120. Your draw is a plus 227.
Don't touch it.
Nope.
Just, I'm tempted.
No, the only thing appealing there, and it's not that appealing.
Yeah, it's like I'm really tempted because I think Venezuela is better than what they've done so far, but they're not at full strength, so I don't think they get it done. Those are the 4 o'clock games. 6 o'clock, you've got Paraguay and Bolivia. Paraguay is hosting. They should be a pretty good favorite.
They are minus 435.
Wow.
Bolivia is a plus 1315, and your draw is basically a plus 500.
Don't even think about the plus 1300 number. Don't even think about it. It ain't happening. Bolivia is terrible.
It's not La Paz.
No, their coach might be withholding players still because they haven't signed with his cousin's brother's uncle's agency. And he might be in jail. The interim president of the FA is in jail. He was hauled out of the stadium
on live
at
TV.
halftime of the last match. So who knows what happens for Bolivia going to Paraguay tomorrow. Do not put any money on Bolivia. All right, 6 o'clock. Brazil goes to Uruguay. Now, before we get numbers, there are lots of elements to this one. No Neymar for Brazil. Missing 7 other regular players as they go to Montevideo. Uruguay got the bad news today. Luis Suarez tested positive for COVID. He ain't playing. Federico Valverde not playing. Brazil not exactly great against Venezuela on Friday in Brazil. They won 1-0. Let's see what else we got. Allen, who is questionable here. He said it'll be totally different against Uruguay. There'll be more gaps for us to counter, et cetera, et cetera. Brazil did get good news. Alex Telles from Manchester United will be playing. He tested negative for COVID. He had reportedly tested positive over the weekend. He got a negative test, so he's going. Who knows how these tests are actually being done at this point. Uruguay will also be missing Martin Silva, Sebastian Cotes, Maxi Gomez. Matias Vinha has been infected with COVID. He's missing the match. It's not good news with Luis Suarez testing positive today when there were pictures posted from the Uruguayan Concentracion of them having an asado yesterday that looked like it would have been great, but they were all hanging out. No masks, just chilling. Hopefully not sharing their mate like they normally would. But, hopefully they don't do another round of testing before this game because they might not have a team.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Forfeit.
What are the numbers for Uruguay and Brazil?
Uruguay plus 260, Brazil plus 115, and your draws a plus 235. I ain't touching it.
If there are no more positives for Uruguay, I will actually take them to win it. I think it'll be 1-0, and there could be like 5 Brazilians injured and carried off on stretchers. But I think Uruguay finds a way to win.
So what happens in the second half?
That's true. That's true. But I don't know what they're going to be missing because it could get ugly. I remember those pictures of the asado, and I'm like, oh man, this is Cristiano Ronaldo's lunch thing all over again with all the players testing positives. Argentina has a different kind of challenge as they go to Peru. It is the last game of the day. It's a 7:30 kickoff here in Atlanta, and they're going to be missing Ezequiel Palacios, who had a fractured bone in his back during the 1-1 draw with Paraguay. It was a knee to the back. It was like the Neymar back injury in the 2014 World Cup, where a player's going up, trying to win a header over him, and goes with the knee right into the back. Argentina could be getting Tagliafico back, returning from injury. That could help. Nico Gonzalez could be moving from playing as an auxiliary left back to replacing Lucas Ocampos. Ocampos left the game in the 60th minute against Paraguay. He was replaced by Di Maria, who is just working his way back into this group. Peru does not have Paulo Guerrero. Raul Ruidiaz has not been scoring for them. He could get the start in place of Guerrero. But you also have a lot of unrest in Peru right now, and that was why this game might not have got played. They, I guess, have everything under control well enough to get this game played. I'm still waiting to see what happens with that. It would not surprise me if things turn sideways because this is a big international event in Peru, and you have an interim president who stepped down after being in position for 5 days, and you've had protests every night, and you've had people get killed in these protests, and it has been an absolute bit of madness all over Peru. I don't know. I don't know how that affects the match. I don't know how that affects anything here. You won't have fans in the stands, but I don't know how it affects anything leading into this. I don't know how the Peruvian motivation will be coming into this. They've got motivation because they've been bad so far in the qualification process. They're in a pretty desperate spot. What are the numbers looking like?
Peru plus 385, Argentina minus 130, and your draws a plus 265. Yeah, see, national unrest for me is a sign not to go anywhere close to this one.
Well, if fans were in the stands, it'd be a different conversation. They're not, so I don't know if it actually affects anything. Gustavo chimes in and says, the match will be played by CONMEBOL's interest because it's absolutely normal a president resignation after popular demand. Welcome to South America. I would only be concerned about it not getting played if there are protests and unrest in the vicinity of the stadium, if it becomes a safety issue, which...
That was going to be my question. Is like, can we hear the protests from the broadcast? Because that might be a deciding factor.
Yeah, that's the only thing that I worry about here. So I think Argentina gets a draw. I don't know if they get a win here. I think Peru is so desperate that they'll throw everything they have at it and might only get a point out of it, which isn't enough for them. I think Argentina's good enough to go there and get a draw. So that would be where I would pick this.
Yeah, I'm not going to touch it just because of all of the intangibles, as Jimmy the Greek would put it in column number 5. How do folks watch this if they want to?
You can watch. Let me double check the Argentina game. I know you can watch on Fanati's. Fight TV has it too. There's a couple other outlets that have it. I think Dish might have this actually on their pay-per-view segments. There's not a whole lot of places to watch this in the United States, which sucks. I think the Uruguay-Brazil game is actually on Goal TV, which is also on Fanati's, but it's not the pay-per-view game on Fanati's. You have to pay an extra $29.95, or if you did the country pack to watch both games from your country in this round, you would get, I think it'd be like, let me see if I do the math, it'd be about $10 off. Yeah, you get $5 off each game. Let me double check this. The Uruguay-Brazil game might be on pay-per-view. I thought it was going to get to Goal TV. I think all of them this round are on. Oh, no, they're not. Venezuela-Chile is the game that's on BN, which is also available on Fanati's, but you don't have to pay the extra for it. So $29.95, Fanati's. Go to fntz.co/soccer down here. You can subscribe there. It actually helps the show. You can watch the pay-per-views there. You have to pay for them. That also helps the show. So if you're not a subscriber, or if you want to get one of these matches, there you go. I am going to plump for the Peru-Argentina match, of course, and we'll report back on Monday. Or on a Wednesday, sorry. I don't know what day it is anymore. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, you're right there with you, brother.
None of it matters. Days don't matter.
They all blend into each other.
Winter Wind wants to start a GoFundMe to help transfer Miggy somewhere that would actually care away from Newcastle. I'm for this.
Can I also transfer to sew his agent's mouth shut?
Yeah, that also needs to happen. D. Graham says his agent said if it wasn't for the pandemic, he would already be out. I don't know if his agent talking so much is going to help this process, because I don't know how many buyers there's going to be because of the pandemic, and I don't think you want to make it worse for your client if he's stuck at Newcastle for the life of the contract, which I don't know how long it is, to be perfectly honest. I'd like to see him go elsewhere for sure. His agent talked about Atleti supposedly having interest but not putting an offer in, other Premier League clubs. I just don't think his agent is playing this correctly.
Nope.
I don't. I have no idea what's going on this year, because Miguel was very good for Newcastle last year. I don't know why he hasn't been first choice this year. It makes no sense, but nothing about Steve Bruce makes any sense. Burns said he looked so ticked off when Bruce had him sit on the bench at the start of the season. I bet he's gone as soon as possible. I would agree. I just don't know when that's going to be because of this weird market. And I don't know if his agent's helping him out here. His agent started saying a bunch of weird things at the end of the negotiations here in Atlanta for him to go to Newcastle. Started making a whole bunch of claims out of nowhere that made no sense. And then it all went away once the deal was done. So I don't know if he's just kind of inexperienced, if he thinks he's used to being able to kind of bully clubs in South America. I don't think that's going to work with Newcastle. I hope it doesn't hurt him. I really hope it doesn't hurt him. I'd like to see him go to Spain. Burns says Sevilla would be a good fit. I agree. I think there's clubs in England that he would be a good fit for if they wanted to deal there. I'd love for him to go to Italy. I think he'd be amazing in Italy if he got the opportunity with the right team. Man, if Atalanta had any money, that would be fun. Mm-hmm. Get him to Atalanta with that transition team. That'd be a blast.
My mind is still functioning on the idea of Simeone getting a hold of him and saying, I want you to defend and then run track meets.
Yeah, I mean, he could actually be a good fit there. Be very curious to see how this plays out. I was a little surprised at the interview his agent gave, and we'll see where it goes.
As an 8 and unleash the angry Miggy, because as we've seen in times, there is some knife between the teeth in Miguel Almiron's childlike face, whether people want to remember it or not.
Oh yeah, no, he plays really well when he gets pissed off. I like that version of Miguel Almiron. We didn't see it a whole lot because that's not who he is, but it can happen, and when it does, he can go in with some tackles that could get you sent off, and he can play pretty physical for a little guy. He absolutely can. Gustavo chimes back in on Argentina and Peru. He says, I love Peru, but we have to take advantage of this moment to beat them. He thinks Argentina wins. I hope they do. I feel like Peru will be desperate enough to get a point. I do. Burns says in Italy, Almiron would lead the league in kilometers run per game by 3 kilometers. Second would be Weston McKennie. I think that's what would make him so attractive, though. You know, if Let's go full fantasy with it. And as I've put forward many times, I think Mauricio Pochettino should wait for Antonio Conte to get fired or to finally walk away from Inter. That should be the spot that he takes. Bring Almiron with him to Inter in that team. That could be fun. With Pochettino running it, I'd be all in on that. That's my fantasy booking scenario for the evening.
Just find the perfect place for him where you can play him as like a flying 8 instead of just as a 10, and treat him like you talked about treating Marcelino Moreno in Atlanta as an 8 who just kind of comes out of the midfield like Jason coming out of the woodwork with a machete and beating players one-on-one on the dribble and with speed. And just instead of just being the 10, let him work both directions.
That's how you get the most out of him. I mean, that's the thing, is that's how you get the most out of him. He was not a traditional 10 here. I mean, when you go back and look at how he played here, yes, he played in that role, but he didn't play it like a 10. He played it like an attacking 8 because he would drop deep plenty of times, and it created opportunities for others to take that space, and it worked. The rotations were really good. So if he's in a team that can do that, then great. Winter throws another one at us. If you want to go pure fantasy, imagine him in Dortmund as a flying 8 with Witzel at the 6.
Good God.
Yeah. Man, now I really like that idea, too.
Witzel's already like the dude I would, if I could pluck a player out of the world, I would pluck Witzel to Atlanta to play the 6. So
no, here you go. You see, Jesse Marsch goes to Dortmund, and then he goes to get Miguel Almiron for knowing him from his time here and gets him on a good deal to come to Dortmund. There you go. That's the way that works out.
That conversation is, those things you did to me, do them to other people now.
Yes. I could get with that. That'd be fun. I didn't get to see the game, Gustavo, but Gustavo says Miggy showed against Argentina why he was so decisive and spectacular at Atlanta United. He should be transferred to a big team in the EPL. I think he can. I really do. I mean, he's that good of a player. That's why I do not understand what Steve Bruce is doing. It just makes no sense.
Yeah, I quit trying to understand what Steve Bruce was doing or not doing because it's just I look at him. Yeah, pretty much. You're not far off, Gundy. I'll tell you that.
Have you ever seen anybody play the game called soccer?
Apparently not.
I don't think Steve Bruce has seen it, or he forgot it, or he's been concussed too many times.
Horrible image in my head now of like Steve Bruce getting fired at Newcastle and somehow conning his way into the Celtic job. My God, I need to lie down.
You ain't wrong.
Wow, that would be horrible. That makes me sick to my stomach, Jarrett.
I think you just spoiled them in dinner.
I need to lie down.
Yeah, that's not good. That's really, really not good. Burns says Steve Bruce is honestly the worst manager I've ever watched. Him and Klinsmann. I agree.
Yeah, that's not a. That's not a.
Hey, that's some low company.
Yeah,
that's some low cotton right there. That's a first cut.
That's some low cotton.
Low cotton, not high cotton. Low cotton.
When's that phrase from?
We're just making phrases up here weekly, and you know it.
Yeah, it's just I know high. It was the opposite of high cotton. It was just something that popped into my head. I don't know if
at
it
no
even
point
exists as an actual phrase.
In your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
I'm so glad I have those clips now. I am.
Where
glad.
are we?
I am so glad. J-Dub, well, Newcastle fans are with us in this confusion. Their social media is full of folks asking why Miggy isn't starting. I do not understand it at all.
Yep.
Because I guess the secret plan is to drive down his value after you spent, what was it, like $27 million for him?
Yeah.
Man. We got this dynamic player who cost us like almost 30 million pounds. What are you going to do with him?
Let's sit him on the bench.
Yeah, let's just not
sit him on
play
the bench
him
and see what happens. His value drops and then sell him because it's not working.
Says the owner who tried to bring back HMV.
Yes, that's true. He did. He tried to bring back 8 tracks.
He probably still has them.
Yeah. There's an update on the Sergio Ramos situation from Marca and saying that PSG are not trying to sign Sergio Ramos, that is not a valid rumor. They are trying to sign Kylian Mbappe to a new contract, and they would not have the money to sign both of them right now. They would have to sell Neymar or Mbappe to make room on the salary side for Sergio Ramos. And they're not going to do that for a center back. They're just not.
Well, I mean, they're just backing out of the negotiations because he's already coming to Atlanta, hopefully.
No, he's going to finish his career at Real Madrid as he should. He's not going to be one of those guys.
You're right, but...
He should. I hope he does.
I'll be over here dreaming.
I would be all for it.
I hope he does too, because it's like... It would be a great ending for him.
Yeah, he deserves that to finish there and do it the right way. I
just have this idea of him like coming to MLS. Like, come to Atlanta. What are you going to do here? Well, Big Wayne's sitting down there in Miami. How many times do you want to hit him in 90 minutes?
That would be fun. I mean, if everybody's going to hate Atlanta, let's just get Sergio Ramos and just completely, fully expand that process. But no, he should finish his career at Real Madrid. There shouldn't be any of this. Continuing with...
I'm sure we can get Stoica out of retirement, too, if we're going to go down that road.
Yeah, sure. Why not? Gustavo wants to continue down the Miguel Almiron road. Miggy is emulating Tata's number 8 role, an attacking playmaker who can start as an 8 to end as a 10 at any moment. That's a good way to put it. It's different than the way we've termed it, and I wish I could remember which journalist in Argentina described him as a flying 8. At least that was the translation. I like that. He's a player who can start as an 8 and end as a 10 in a certain moment, in a certain movement. Moreno's that kind of player too, and I think that was one of the appealing things about bringing Marcelino Moreno into Atlanta, is those kind of players can do well in this league because the way the league is structured, the way the games can get stretched at times, players who can pop up in those different roles, very important. Gustavo says that Tata said he was an 8 or a 10 depending on when the sun cast shade on the pitch. He didn't like running, so he would park in the shade. Yeah, they approached the role very differently because Miguel loves to run and Tata hated to run. But yes, they would play from deeper positions and then could end up in attacking spots. That's a fun way to put it.
Valeri, Diego, for players who can come into this league and play that role. And pop up in space. And
Valeri plays it more in the Tata realm. Moreno and Miguel could flip it with their speed and their quickness, whereas Valeri and Tata flip the field with their reading of the game and understanding when the times are to go forward. Before we wrap up, we are going to talk about the leagues that are getting back underway briefly because a lot of things could change between now and then. For example, was really looking forward to the Barcelona Atleti game this weekend and still am. I mean, that's going to be a big one in La Liga. No Luis Suarez. He's probably not going to be able to play in that one. We'll see about Barcelona and what all they have for that one. There is another rumor about Barcelona. They've been talking about bringing in Eric Garcia, I guess with fake money because they don't have any money. It doesn't look like they're going to be able to pull that off with fake or real money because Pep Guardiola said he wants to keep Eric Garcia at Manchester City for cover until the end of the season. Now, he's out of contract at the end of the season. He's probably going to sign with Barcelona on a free. But now the rumor is they could go to Chelsea and bring in Antonio Rudiger on loan because they can't afford anything, and he ain't playing.
Right.
So he hasn't made an appearance yet for Lampard. Get him for 6 months just to see out the season because you don't have any money. Yeah. I mean, that's where Barcelona's at right now. These are the deals they got to make. It's like, okay, who's at the bottom of the team sheet? Who is not playing for a team? Who would they like to let go for a few months and maybe even pay some of the salary because they'd like to let him go? Yeah, let's go get Rudiger. Let's do that. Yeah. That's where we're talking about. Man, it's so sad.
Hey, for all you people know, Nick's negotiating tonight with Barcelona. So, for all you know, he is. You can't prove he's not.
They don't have enough money for him. They don't have enough money for anybody. watching.
They don't have enough money for me. That's all you.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Like they might be negotiating, but it's a short negotiation. Like that $5 isn't going very far. Watching the Argentine national team arrive at the hotel in Lima, thanks to Teise.
Yes.
Was watching the Copa Liga Professional de Football earlier. The transfer gossip from the BBC. So they're a little behind on the Sergio Ramos thing. Now, he can sign a pre-contract January 1st. He's out of contract at the end of the year. He's in the same boat as Messi. So that could get weird. Of course, Manchester United remain interested in Borussia Dortmund and England winger Jadon Sancho and are trying to secure a deal to bring the 20-year-old to the club before next year's European Championships.
Oh, my head hurts.
Could you just stop? Like, go get Cristiano Ronaldo, because that's more likely.
Yes.
Man, so stupid. They talk about the PSG contract extensions potentially for Mbappe and Neymar. Everton and Tottenham are both interested in signing Napoli's Poland striker Milik, and the 26-year-old could be available for as little as €10 million in the January transfer window, or £10 million.
Okay.
Interesting. Celtic are interested in signing Manchester United and England goalkeeper Dean Henderson on loan in January. Jarrett, your thoughts?
Good God, they moved on from Frazier. Good for them. Well, okay, background here, Celtic was anchored by Fraser Forrester, formerly of Celtic, then went to Southampton, went back on loan to Celtic because he can't get minutes at Southampton. Plays great last year, actually. He's fallen out of favor with the English national team. Then goes back to Southampton, refuses to come back to Celtic, even though Celtic wanted to bring him back because he wants to prove he can start at Southampton. I don't think he started a single game for them this year. So they've got to find a new goalkeeper right now because Barkas was their off-season signing from one of the Akoses in Greece. I forget which one. And Barkas just hasn't been great. There's been a lot of we just got to let him get settled in talk. But, I mean, they've been going with Scott Bain, who's kind of like – Bain has kind of been the Paul Bacco of Celtic for the last few years the Charlie O'Brien, Gerald Laird. He's just kind of been there as the backup. I won't besmirch the name of Eddie Perez because Eddie Perez is one of my favorite people. But yeah, they've been going with backup keeper because Barkas hadn't been cutting it. So, I mean, if they're going to chase somebody, go ahead. Might as well keep throwing money away. Why not?
Well, it'd be a loan. So, I mean, that's a pretty good one. I think it's a good deal if you can pull it off.
You got to get something. Hopefully they're still like within shouting distance of a trophy by the time this happens.
We'll see about that. According to the Express, and this is BBC's rumor roundup, if Barcelona doesn't get Garcia and if they don't get Rudiger, then the next one on their list is Mustafi from Arsenal and German defender. I don't know how they pull that one off, but okay. We'll see. Wolves and Spain forward Adama Traore believe that he is not starting matches because he's turned down a contract extension. His current deal runs until 2023. Why would he want to extend that? I'm with him on turning it down for now. Like, he's probably going to want to move at that point because that'd be a big potential transfer. And the club's kind of dumb to not play him at this point because then they're lowering his value and they'd sell him anyway if a good offer came in. Like, that's all everybody.
Why are clubs this dumb?
That's dumb. Wolves, dumb. Derby County needs a new manager. They moved on from Koku.
Yes, they have.
And according to the Daily Mail, John Terry is one of the candidates. Why are you acting that way about John?
What did he do to you? Not available?
The critical mass of Wayne Rooney and John Terry on the same touchline?
I mean, Wayne Rooney's like a player coach who's playing a decent bit. Like, he's not going to be involved there in that way. If John Terry becomes the manager, he's going to be the manager. He might tell Wayne Rooney, you're not going to be a player coach anymore. You're just going to be a player.
Oh, I want that on live TV every single time. I will get the I follow for Derby County if that happens.
I don't understand why that can't work. What has John Terry done to show you that he can't go to Derby County and do well?
Oh, I'm just talking about the notion that I'm sure that Wayne Rooney thinks that he wants to be the manager for Darby
Why
County.
do you think that?
Why would you not be chasing a coaching certificate and being part of the player-coach hybrid hydra that is currently
because
there?
Because that's a stupid idea. Because that's a moronic idea that no club ever does, except for Louisville City in the USL Championship, and now Darby County with a group of players running the team.
Yeah.
It's stupid.
I'm not disagreeing.
So who cares? Then what does that matter? Like, if they go hire John Terry, they hire John Terry because they don't want to go with a stupid idea.
And then how does Wayne Rooney feel if he feels like he's been passed over for the manager?
If he actually thinks he's been passed over with how long of being a player manager? Like 3 months?
Yeah.
If he thinks he's being passed over, first, Wayne Rooney has done nothing to show that he is unreasonable with thinking he'd be passed over. That's not even fair to Wayne Rooney. John Terry's got more experience. He's been an assistant at Villa for, what, 2-3 years?
3.
3? Mm-hmm. The last year he played, maybe he was a player coach or whatever. I don't know. I mean, it's not even close. Like, he's far more qualified. So if they hire him, I mean, it turns some heads for Darby, and I mean, they need to do that. So
they need to do that?
The Wayne Rooney element is a nothing to it. That part has nothing to do with it. But I don't know who else they'd get that would be better. I mean, go get Big Sam.
He's probably already called and
I'm
flowers
sure he has.
and chocolates and stuff.
I'm sure he has.
All right, so here's how it is right now at the bottom of the championship table. You've got John Nason, who is biting his nails for his beloved Coventry City. They are right now 1 point out of the relegation zone at 8 points. Wickham, who has won 2 of their last 3, they're at 7. They are in the relegation zone. Sheffield Wednesday, who got their 12-point penalty for administration halved on appeal, they are now at 6 points, and they're above Derby County on goal difference. So your relegation zone right now, Wickham at 7, Sheffield Wednesday at 6, Derby County at 6. Derby County is 7 goals behind in goal difference right now, but they are a win out of the to get out of the relegation zone.
Yeah, go get the publicity boost to John Terry, and you'll survive. If you're Derby, you'll be okay. Keep this in mind when we talk about Chelsea moves. It's a rumor right now, but Chelsea, according to the Express, are aiming to sell a number of players to fund a £67 million move for Declan Rice. I know they'd been linked to Declan Rice before. 21, West Ham, England midfielder. They've spent so much money, they'd have to sell some to spend that. They have some players they could sell. Keep that in mind. Chelsea might be a willing seller in January and in the next summer window to get Declan Rice. That's an interesting one. The last one on the rumor roundup from Barcelona, they reportedly, according to Sport in Barcelona, are willing to sell 4 players in January. I think they're going to need to sell more than that. Junior Firpo, Spanish left back, 24 years old. Samuel Umtiti, 26 years old, center back. Mateus Fernandez, Brazilian midfielder, 22. And Martin Braithwaite, 29, Danish forward. You're not going to make a lot of money from that. You're not making €190 million from that, which is what you supposedly need to balance your books.
Right now you're looking at 6 weeks before the calendar turns to 2021.
Well, yeah, you can't sell anybody right now. So, I mean, that these two things are not related.
No, but just the notion of the names being floated and the $190 million that you need to balance your books so you don't go into bankruptcy proceedings. I
don't even understand what you're yelling about.
It's like the names being floated and the amount of money that you would be getting in return would be nowhere close to the money that you need to stave off your bankruptcy proceedings in the January window.
But they have been negotiating with players and staff to take pay cuts, and that has not been finalized yet. Floating names and actually selling people are 2 different things. It's nothing to yell about, but that's not going to be enough if they don't have some pay cuts. Right. They're going to have pay cuts to go along with that. I still just don't know. But the other thing they could have, too, is Messi signing a pre-contract, and then they go ahead and make a deal if, depending on where they are in the league, depending on where things are, if they say, you know what, it makes sense for us to get him off our books now, even if we don't get much in a transfer fee, just to get him off of our books right now, combined with a few other small sales, combined with maybe a pittance of a transfer fee to sell Lionel Messi, yeah, that might do it. I think Messi's contract is like 60 million euro. It's something absurd. So, yeah, I mean, that could happen. It's going to get weird, but if they get pay cuts, which it sounds like they could force through, which then could create all kinds of chaos in the team, and who knows where that goes. Barcelona is going to be one to watch. It sounds like Chelsea is going to be one to watch that could be selling. There's going to be some interesting things happening in this January window. I don't know how it affects MLS yet. Brian Rodriguez was linked to Benfica today. He's been linked to a lot of people. They bought him for about $10 million. I don't know if they're going to get more than that for him right now. His performances in MLS have not been good. With Uruguay, they have been pretty good. Is that going to be enough to sell him? I don't know where that falls just yet. So things are starting to percolate a bit when we talk about this January window. So we will keep you posted on all the different shows that we're doing. We'll be back in the morning to talk about more soccer down here. We'll get you caught up on any late news on the South American qualifiers. We'll get you caught up on any late news going into the Nations League games tomorrow. Final comment from Bernd Durstberger on the Twitch pitch, and I think I agree with this. I do want to hear him talk about his philosophy a little bit more. Bernd thinks Wayne Rooney could be eventually a better coach than John Terry, but not yet. I think so. Yeah. But I want to hear Rooney talk about his playing philosophy a little bit more.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
Jarrett, final words. I heard the crickets.
Yeah, the crickets are dying out because it's getting cold. Thank you very much.
True.
As far as all this goes, I don't have to tell this crowd to just go enjoy CONMEBOL. It's beautiful.
Yes.
Europe does not. This is the same kind of concept for me. The difference between All-Star games, where like the MLB All-Star game versus the Pro Bowl and whatnot, is I don't really care about European World Cup qualifiers because a lot of it kind of gets set in stone because of the way it's set. But man, please just always enjoy CONMEBOL and CONCACAF World Cup qualifying for the absolute insanity motorcycles in a chain link ball cage that it is.
That's certainly one way to put it.
It's not wrong.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful, and it's basically murder ball. And it's wonderful.
I was going to say Thunderball, the original version.
Yes, Thunderball. Thank you, John.
John, final thoughts.
I'm just it's another crazy day, and I can't wait to see the action that comes out tomorrow. I'll probably be looking at Nations League most of the day and seeing all the madness that happens there. And just remember, folks, it was Panama.
Yes, it was Panama, as Chad Ochocinco told us. Make sure you're following Jarrett_Smith. Make sure you're following Nick Alifi. Make sure you're following OSG Nelson. Follow me at Longshoe. You can follow all of our shows at Soccer Down Here. If you're following me on Twitter at Longshoe, I just shared with you the goal of the day. From the Argentine match, El Pulga Rodriguez with an outside of the foot chip from about 22 yards out. That is absurd. Man's like 39 years old or something, and that is a ridiculous goal.
Wow.
That is your goal of the night. Enjoy it. We'll be back in the morning. Mucho platio.
Mucho platio.
Mucho platio.